Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Naruto. My Sharingan is blackened, automatic upgrade system. Chapter 1. The summer is scorching, and the cicadas are constantly singing. Leaf Village. Ninja School. Sakuden, Uchiha Sakuden. The teacher was standing next to a sleeping boy with a roster, looking at the motionless boy. After a few shouts, Chi-Tien remained unmoved, and the corner of the teacher's mouth twitched a few times when he saw this. The surrounding students also shifted their gazes to this side. Snapped. The teacher made a roster attack and came to Sakuden's head. Chi-Tien woke up suddenly in pain. I see, who he. Chi-Tien looked at the strange faces around him, and swallowed the cutie in his mouth. It's class time, do you know what you're doing now? I'm furious. After the teacher saw that Kishin had woken up, he returned to the podium cursing. For a while, Kishin didn't think about cursing anymore, and after being shocked, he began to observe his surroundings. Strange, who are these people? Aren't I sleeping? Why did I suddenly appear here? Why did that person call me Kishin just now? Isn't my name? Kishin was curious and asked repeatedly, but finally found that he had forgotten his name. Am I crossing over? He reached out and squeezed his face hard. Hey, it hurts. It seems this is not a dream. After feeling the pain, Kishin was even more convinced that he had crossed. Sakei-tien-kun, you are not sleeping, stupid. Why do you pinch yourself as soon as you wake up? A very gentle voice reached Kishin's ears. Turning his head to look, a loli with black hair and red eyes appeared in his field of vision. This is Yui Hong, my deskmate. Seeing such a familiar face, Chi-Tien felt a tingle in his head, and a lot of strange memory fragments flooded into his brain. Chi-Tien accepted the memory of the original owner. Uchiha, this is a memory from before. Accepting the memory, Chi-Tien has a new understanding of himself. After sorting out my memory, my current name is Uchiha Sakuden. Parents participated in the battle, died on the battlefield, and became an orphan himself. The reason why he can survive until now is all due to the subsidy from Might Duy village. The original owner suffered a sudden myocardial infarction in the classroom, and his soul successfully occupied this body. Seeing Kurenai Yuhi in front of him, Sakuden could only smile. After accepting the reality that he traveled through, there was also a trace of worry amidst the excitement. It is indeed a very happy thing to be part of the Uchiha clan. Possesses Sharingan blood succession limit, but the fate behind is very unoptimistic. And it will be a catastrophe. As a veteran Naruto fan, he knows the whole storyline. Looking at the faces of everyone in the class, Kishin gradually showed a trace of worry on his face. Obito, Hirano Lin, and Yui Hong. I really didn't expect that I really came to the world of Naruto and became classmates with them. It's not easy in the future. Sakei-tien turned his head to look at Kurenai Yuhi. Through them, Kishin also knows what kind of time period he is in now. 3 Ninja Wars. During this time, Might Duy village did not know how many people died. What's more, I have just traveled here, and none of the system cheats I thought of before have appeared yet. This also made him more worried. Uchiha Sakuden, the teacher has called this name from the beginning. It seems to be an original character in this world. The reason why he is not famous seems to be that his strength is very ordinary and his talent is average. Thinking of this, Kishin became even more worried about his current situation. If you graduate from school and join the battlefield in the future, you can imagine the consequences. It's really too bad. How can we travel to this time period? Isn't this embarrassing? While thinking, Chi-Tien scratched his fluffy black hair. His mind was full of future experiences. Next, Uchiha Sakuden. At this moment, a voice of indifference and anger reached his ears. Looking up, he saw that the teacher was looking at him very unfriendlily while holding the roster. Out of fear of the teacher, Sakei-tien stood up in an instant. But after a few seconds there was no response. Sakei-ten-kun, today is the assessment day. Be sure to work hard. On the side, Yui Hong blinked her single eye, and stretched out her small hand to make a victory gesture. It was only then that Chi-Tien realized that today was the assessment day. No wonder the teacher said that kind of thing just now. Out of politeness, he smiled and nodded. Several girls around him also cheered him on at this time. Too bad, no matter how bad things can happen to me. It doesn't matter, I can only bite the bullet. After seeing the reactions of several people, Chi gritted his teeth and clenched his fists, and walked straight towards the podium. But every time he took a step, his heart felt tense. It has not been 2 hours since he traveled here, and his memory has not been completely sorted out, let alone let him take the exam. Now this situation can only be said to be forced and helpless. Although very reluctant, I know my own situation very well, not to mention the exam, and I don't even know how to avatar. Knowing that the next result is to make a fool of yourself in front of everyone, but you can't back down in the slightest. Standing on the podium, he turned around and raised his head to see that everyone's eyes were all focused on him. Today's assessment is the avatar technique, let's begin. The teacher's gaze was also very severe, which made Chi even more nervous. Just now, ding, it was detected that the host was very excited and nervous, and began to automatically bind the blackening upgrade system. Ding, the blackening upgrade system is successfully bound. A mechanized voice sounded in Kishin's mind. System. A burst of inexplicable joy flooded into my heart. Haha, sure enough, there must be a system to accompany you through time travel. There was a gleam of light in Saki's eyes. Before Chi asked, the voice of the system appeared in his mind again. Ding, you can't wait to show off your clone technique, it has been automatically upgraded to the highest level. Ding, the technique of shadow clone is not to be outdone, and has been learned independently, and has been upgraded to an excellent level. Ding, your substitute technique is too low level, and you feel that you are not good enough for the host, and you have evolved to the technique of seduction. Ding, the art of seduction has been upgraded to the highest level. Standing on the podium in the classroom, a series of voices sounded in Chi mind. Excited heart, trembling hands, Chi eyes were slightly moist. I'm Sloth, a very beautiful little cutie blurted out. Kishin couldn't hide his inner joy at this time, this system was too unexpected. Automatic upgrade, unlimited points. Wash white weak 3 points, black make 100 times stronger. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Sudden system, sudden automatic upgrade, sudden blackening, gave Chi a big surprise. At this time, Kishin has a lot of confidence in the future, not to mention this small assessment. The sudden system and changes made Kishin feel very unbelievable. On the surface, he looked calm and composed, but he was already happy in his heart. He just traveled to this world full of cheaters, and now he has the capital to fight against them. Although not familiar with it, the benefits are definitely indispensable. Now not only do I know the avatar technique, but I have also obtained a shadow avatar, which is of great help to my current situation. However, this substitute technique is a bit speechless. What's wrong with it? It's just seduction. Chi clenched his fists excitedly. Now that he has a system, he is full of confidence. In this way, those in the future don't need to be afraid anymore. It's so cool. Kishin still doesn't understand the system very well, but at least this time he won't lose face. And the content of today's assessment happens to be the avatar technique. On the podium, Chi eyes were shining, and his expression was very rich. But teachers and classmates looked at him as if they were looking at a fool. What's going on? Can't you be stupid? That's right, it's been such a long time, why have you been giggling all the time? Most likely she is ill, and not seriously ill. Many students in the seats began to whisper to each other, and the protagonist was Sake Tien on the podium. Yui Hong frowned slightly, folded her hands together, as if she was praying for something. Cough cough, be quiet. The teacher turned to look at the students and coughed twice. Uchiha Sakuten, what are you doing? Hurry up and start. Just when Chi was fantasizing about the future, the teacher began to urge him. When he came back to his senses, Chi was no longer flustered as before, but was very confident and relaxed. Move your hands, look ahead, and let out a smile. The current assessment is just a small game for him. Hands nodded. Bang! A cloud of white smoke appeared out of thin air. The smoke dissipated, and there was an extra clone exactly like himself beside Kishin. A head of black hair, big eyes with double eyelids, a high nose bridge, piercing eyes, black and white. I didn't expect that I look like this now. Sure enough, the Uchiha clan is very handsome. I was curious just now, obviously my own strength is very weak, why there are still girls greeting me, it seems to be the reason. The current appearance, if it is placed in the previous world, it must be the favorite of the sisters. Qi Tian looked at his clone, a little shameless. He had fantasized countless times that he could have a clone exactly like himself, but now looking at the clone in front of him, Qi Tian's nose felt sore. It's really surprising. 95 points. Sensei looked at the two Sakiden with an incredulous expression. After being surprised, he slowly said the result. The high score of 95 suddenly made the whole class boil. Points are not very important, but a crane tail can get 95 points, which is different. Sakiden-kun, you are really amazing. It's so handsome. Sakiden-kun must have put a lot of effort in private. To Sakiden-kun, I'm going to faint. After the teacher announced the grades, several girls in the class had already started a discussion. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakiden, and the frown disappeared, replaced by a smile. I didn't expect this kid to pretend to be a pig and eat a tiger. I really didn't see it. It's still from the Uchiha family, so it's so-so. Kakashi is the strongest. Even if that's the case, it's okay, none of us know how to avatar. And our two Uchihas, one is at the end of the crane, and the other is at the end of the crane. Neither of us has opened Sharingan. Those unconvinced male students in the class have already started to mock. For a while, two waves of power were divided in the class. The general girls defended Qi Tian, while half of the boys felt that Qi Tian was pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. Seeing that the class was very lively, Kishin didn't know whether it was good or bad for a while. Ding, my eyes feel that I am lying on the gun innocently, I am very unconvinced, my blackening awakened to Sharingan. Ding, Sharingan feels that I have been insulted and directly affected, and has been automatically upgraded to Yigoyu. Qi Tian listened to the voice of the system in his head, and touched his face with his hands, feeling very incredible. A series of surprises made Kishin feel very unrealistic, but he could use it, which made him feel unbelievable. The class is still noisy, but it doesn't seem to have anything to do with Sake Tien. At this time, he was completely immersed in his joy. Quiet me up, it's not proper to be noisy. The veins on the teacher's forehead popped up, and he couldn't bear it anymore. As soon as the words fell, everything fell silent for an instant. Uchiha Sakiden, return to your seat. This time the assessment is over, everyone is quiet, go to self-study. Putting down the roster, watching Sake Tien waved his hand, and then left the classroom. Sake Tien walked straight to the seat and sat down. There were too many surprises brought to him today. Sakiden-kun, I really didn't expect you to improve so much. It seems that I have put a lot of effort into it. Suddenly I feel that you are not that bad, but it makes me feel a little surprised. It even feels like you were pretending before. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin and said with a smile. Kishin smiled and nodded awkwardly, and he didn't want to explain so much. What other people think, let them think that way. You can't tell them that you own the system. Even if they don't believe it, it is inevitable that some people will become suspicious. At that time, it will not be as simple as it is now, and it may even be taken to do research. At the same time, there was a person in a corner with a very bad expression. His eyes were fixed on the two of them. Extremely angry, Asma jumped up from her seat and walked towards Kishin. Snapped. Asma slapped hard on the table, staring straight at Sakishin. This is, Asma, what about him? Just as Qi Tian was about to speak, he suddenly realized something, and turned to look at Yui Hong next to him. At this moment, it seems to understand everything. Rival, that's right, that's it, don't run away. Uchiha Sakiden, I want to challenge you. A very unexpected challenge made the whole class focus on them. Kishin understood why Asma was so angry, and at the same time knew why he did this. The cause of the matter all came from Yui Hong. I didn't expect things to happen to this point. I thought Obito would come to me. Now it seems that the rival in love is the most impulsive. A smile formed on the corner of Saki's mouth. Asma Sarutobi, his father is the third Hokage. The strength in the future is also very strong, but now he is still a child in school and has not yet developed. Sakishin also didn't take the young Asma seriously. Want to challenge me? Sake asked with a smile. That's right, I'm officially challenging you now. If you lose, you have to recognize me as the boss and stay away from Yui Hong. While speaking, Yui Hong didn't understand what happened and looked at a loss. Oh, What if you lose? Sakiden stood up and stared at him. If I lose, it's impossible. The conditions are the same, and if I lose, so will my conditions. Asma looked at Yui Hong next to her, her cheeks were slightly flushed, and she shouted angrily. Okay, since you are sincerely looking for abuse, then it is my duty to teach you a good lesson. Chi Tian looked at him and smiled, then nodded in agreement. All the students in the class focused their attention on them. A challenge also began at this time, and the students around were also full of expectations. One is a top student, and the other is just a million-year-old crane tail. The challenge between these two is sure to be very interesting. Fighting for love, this relationship is really worth seeing. I really don't know the heights of the sky and the depths of the earth. The 3 generations of old men didn't educate them well. With the aura of a gangster, I feel that I am the 2nd generation of Guan, otherwise I can't be so arrogant. Asma in front of him was still a teenager at this time, and his appearance was somewhat similar to Konoha Maru. In the later stage, Asma is not very strong, after all, he does not have his own tricks. Jonin is also an ordinary ninja. At this time, the whole class is very much looking forward to the battle between the two of them. As a child, I always liked to watch the excitement. Yui Hong, who was sandwiched between the two, frowned slightly and had a complicated expression. Now this little loli didn't know what to do. School will be over soon, let's not waste time, just stay in class. It's enough here, don't cry when you lose later. Sake Tien moved his body and came to the front. Asma felt a shame that she had never felt before, and her whole body seemed to be boiled. Gritting his teeth, clenching his fists, he glanced at Kurenai Yuhi and came to Sakiden. The two looked at each other with sharp eyes, tit for tat. The next moment, Asma launched an attack instantly. The clenched fist was thrown out instantly, stabbing towards the bridge of Sakishin's nose. This punch was very fast, driving the surrounding wind and making a whirring sound. Faced with this punch, Chi Tian dared not take it lightly. In this world, every child has his or her own strengths, and these cannot be called ordinary children. Facing the oncoming fist, Chi Tian dodged subconsciously to hide. Asma saw Chi Tian dodging, a smile flickered on the corner of her mouth. Haha, I fell for you. Go to me. While speaking, he raised his right leg and kicked in the direction that Chi Tian was dodging. With the small distance between the two, there isn't that much room. So you're waiting for me here. Chi Tian's heart trembled, he immediately stabilized his body, and stretched out his hand to block. On the one hand, he was forced to block like this, and on the other hand, he wanted to test his current physical fitness. The simple blocking posture stunned the whole class. At such a close distance, using your arms to block is undoubtedly looking for abuse. Bang! A muffled sound sounded, Chi Tian took a step back, his arms trembled slightly, and a trace of pain came. Seeing Sakishin's reaction, Asma raised her legs with great pride, and felt that her victory was a certainty. This body is over. Even if I was before, I wouldn't be like this. Chi Tian looked at the triumphant Asma in front of him, and complained in his heart. Ding, my body feels the host's complaints, and I feel that I am very innocent now. I have broken through the limit independently, and the current level is diamond level. Diamond grade, the physical strength is as hard as a diamond. The voice of the system once again penetrated Sakishin's mind. The corners of Kishin's mouth turned upwards, and his eyes changed instantly, which was a little colder than before. He clenched his fist and made a loud noise. Can clearly feel the changes in the body. Asma looked at Kishin's expression, seemed very upset, clenched his fists and attacked again. A straight uppercut hit Chi Tian's gate of life. Ah! Kishin now has the most basic self-confidence, stands still, and stretches out his hand. The whole movement seems to say, I am going to start filling the cups. What? This kid still wants to take it with one hand. It can't be stupid. I see, it's crazy. Some people sneered, as if they felt that the ending was settled. The result was very unexpected. Chi Tian firmly caught the attacking fist. Bang! A muffled sound resounded through the class again, mixed with Asma's painful voice. The picture that appeared shocked everyone. Sakiden firmly clenched Asma's fist with one hand, without wavering at all. It hurts. It's so hard. Is this TM a rock? Tears welled up in Asma's eyes. The next moment, Chi Tian let go, bent down and punched. A punch hit Asma's stomach, and her whole body instantly bent into a C. Opening his mouth wide, saliva gushed out. Cough, cough, cough. The powerful force made Asma cough uncontrollably. Chi Tian retracted his fist. Asma clutched her stomach, knelt on the ground and coughed non-stop. This punch was so powerful that no one in the room could bear it. This result made the whole class quiet. Obito, Yuan Yelin, Yui Hong and others turned their gazes to Sakishin one after another, somewhat surprised. Those people who just fanned the flames and looked down on Kishin were so scared that they could dig out a 3-bedroom and 2-living room with their toes. Asma, you lost. You can't hurt me even if I stand still. Remember to call me big brother from now on, and stay away from little Hong Hong. Sake Tien patted Asma's shoulder, smiled and looked at Kurenai Yuhi. Little Hong Hong. Yui Hong's immature face turned red instantly. Looking at the surrounding eyes, she wanted to find a gap, and then slipped in. Chi Tian looked at the surprised eyes of the whole class, and the corners of his mouth slightly raised, not to mention how happy he is now. It's just finished, and it's the most comfortable moment ever. Under the watchful eyes of his classmates, Sake Tien left the classroom very handsomely. After walking out of the classroom completely, the whole class became lively in an instant. Everyone was discussing the battle just now, and they were also discussing Sakiden. I really didn't expect Kishin to be so powerful. Yeah, it was at the end of the crane before, I really don't know what happened. Suddenly there is some worship. The discussions of some boys and girls in the class were mixed together. Listening to the students' discussion, Asma gritted her teeth, and the veins on her forehead burst out. Clenched hands into fists, very angry. Asma, get up quickly, is there anything wrong? At this moment, a very gentle voice sounded beside him. Looking up, she saw Yui Hong standing beside him with a smile on her face. I was taken aback. Seeing Kurenai Yuhi, Asma stood up, tears streaming down her face, snot flying all over her nose, and she stretched out her hand to hug Kurenai Yuhi. Daba. Yui Hong showed a very cute expression, stretched out her hand and pushed him aside. Asma is also the kind of social cow approval, and now she can't control so much, and has been grinding around beside Yui Hong. Sakida, who walked out of the classroom, walked leisurely in the school, keeping his eyes on his surroundings. After leaving school, Kishin was still thinking about his future. This time travel was the second time for him to survive. In the battle just now, he also found his own way of survival. There are too many things that happened today. There are also many surprises for me. If the blackening continues at this pace, I believe it won't be long before I can become the overlord. Chi Tian was extremely excited. Ding, it is detected that the host is emotionally agitated, and the goal is ambitious. Sharingan feels that if he does not upgrade, he will not be worthy of the host. Blackened again. Ding, congratulations, Sharingan has been upgraded again, and the current level is 3 Guyu. At this moment, the sound of the system interrupted Kishin's imagination of his future. After listening to the system's words, Chi Tian froze in place. After a while, he stretched out his hand and pinched his face. Hiss, not a dream. This shit is really against the sky. In just a few hours, I have grown so much. I really can't imagine it in the future. Ha ha ha. Sakiden stretched out his hand to the sky, then clenched it into a fist. At this moment, there is only one sentence in his heart: he must control his own destiny. 3-hook Jade, easily upgraded to 3-hook Jade. You know, Urzuzi opened his hook Jade in anger after seeing the family was destroyed. This wave is not bad for Sakishin. After the 3-hook Jade is the kaleidoscope. Kishin was pleasantly surprised, but also a little shocked. It's only been a few hours since I traveled to this world. When I watched anime before, I knew that the sharing eyes of the Uchiha family were not so easy to open. And I have reached Sangoyu in a row. In this situation, no matter who I compare with, I am definitely the best among geniuses. I can't wait to try it now. Kishin is gearing up and wants to try the Sangoyu Sharingan. The next moment, close your eyes and take a deep breath. Open. At the same time as he opened his eyes, Chi Tian's eyes turned from black to red, and the 3 Guyu began to rotate at high speed at the same time, finally forming a triangle. At the same time, what Sakishin can see seems to have undergone some subtle changes. It is much clearer than before, as if wearing glasses for myopia. Is this Sharingan? Could it be that my way of opening is wrong? It always feels like myopia has been cured. However, the clarity is still very high, and there is a feeling of being able to see through things. Cancelled. Sake Tien rubbed his eyes and found that this thing is really too much trouble. Anyway, the blood of the Uchiha family is incense. But the current chakra is really pitiful. I really don't know how this kid lived before. Sakuden suddenly began to worry about his chakra. After all, it is really pitiful. Although many things have been blackened independently, and they have all been perfectly upgraded. Chakra, Sakishin can clearly feel that there are very few, and the few are really pitiful. Although so many things have been automatically upgraded, it is really useless without chakra. Sakishin found a place to sit down. Now is also the time to think hard about what comes next. Ding, your chakra feels like you're very hip stretching, you can't stand such insults, and you're going black. Ding, chakra has been successfully blackened and has become a chakra. Just when Kishin was feeling confused, the sound of the system brought him an unexpected surprise. Is it so powerful? I just made complaints about it, and it turned into Cha Tanla. It's calculated by ton. 666 Ah. Haihua is in hand, I have the world. At this moment, Kishin suddenly felt an endless stream of energy flooding his body. This feeling has never been felt before. Now, Kishin is even more convinced of that sentence. Whitewashing is weak by 3 points, and blackening is 100 times stronger. La la la, I'm a little expert at selling newspapers. Kishin whistled, hummed softly, put his hands in his pockets and walked out with steps that his relatives did not recognize. After a few 10 minutes, Kishin walked around the area. It's the first time you come to the world of Naruto, so you have to get familiar with it no matter what. While getting familiar with the environment, he also accepted all the previous memories. My life is really bad. I didn't expect to be an orphan. Sister Lolita, Sister Yu, who I used to fantasize about, are gone now. What a pity, my handsome face. Chi Tien walked unsteadily on the main road, keeping his eyes on the pedestrians around him. Shaking his head, let himself stop thinking about these illusory things. The next thing he has to think about is his future development. Although he now has such a heaven-defying system, the enemies he will face later are really too powerful. Although he is a member of the Uchiha family, his previous talent is indeed very average. If you don't seize the time to improve your strength, you will face all kinds of big bosses in the future, and you will only have a dead end. Obito, Madara, Kagaya, Hashirama. Perverted 6 levels. Thinking of this, Kishin felt that he was under a lot of pressure. Come on, work hard, there is pressure to be motivated. Walking aimlessly on the road, he soon came to a residence. From the memory he knew, this was his home. It's so shabby, no wonder. After all, he is an orphan, so living under the family's relief will inevitably be so difficult. Chi Tien looked at the very dilapidated gate in front of him, feeling a little disappointed. Squeak, gently pushing open the door, a dilapidated scene appeared in his eyes. Dead leaves all over the ground, dilapidated water tanks, dilapidated houses. Sakishin sighed helplessly. Now these have been taken over by him, and can only be changed by him. Without too much downcast, I immediately started tidying up my home. The sky gradually dimmed, and Kishin also cleaned all his home before the night approached. At this time, everything in the yard was in order, and the living room and bedroom were also neatly tidied up. Everywhere, big and small, was cleaned up. It still looks comfortable like this. It's a family like this. I really don't know how he made a living in this environment before. Looking at the fruits of his labor, Sakishin smiled slightly. Looking up at the sky, I suddenly felt a pang of hunger. This reminded him that he hadn't eaten today. Even if it is a time traveler, it is impossible not to eat. After a busy day, I forget that I haven't eaten yet. There's nothing at home, let's go out to eat. Just in time to taste the food of your dreams. Chi Tien locked the gate and walked on the street. Along the main street, Sakishin came to Konoha's famous ramen restaurant, Ichiraku Ramen. Standing at the entrance of the ramen restaurant, looking at the sign above the head. That's right, it's here. Walking in, a squint-eyed uncle and a few guests came into view. Boss, a bowl of tonkatsu ramen. Okay, Uncle Yil warmly entertained Kishin, which was also expected by Kishin. I found a place to sit down, quietly waiting for my ramen. It's really exactly the same as in the original book, and this Uncle Yil is also unfathomable. I really don't understand, with such a strong strength, there is only one ramen restaurant. Chi-Tien was very curious, but had nowhere to answer. You can't run to people and ask. A few minutes later, a steaming bowl of ramen appeared in front of him. After smelling the smell, the saliva has already flowed out unconsciously. Facing such delicious food, without thinking too much, I picked up the chopsticks and sucked it up. It feels great. It's really an exclusive secret recipe, it's really delicious. A few minutes later, a large bowl of ramen all entered the stomach. Looking at the clean bowl, he hesitated for a moment, finally paid and walked out of the ramen restaurant. Although the taste is delicious, and I also want to eat another bowl. Reluctantly, there is only one coin left in Kishin's hand. No matter where you go, Manny is really a tough guy, you can't live without him at any time. Kishin stood on the road and shook his head helplessly. Thinking of the first time I saw my home today, I also feel that my current money is very reasonable. Now Kishin has one more thing to do, not only to improve his strength, but also to find ways to make money. I looked around the street and saw nothing interesting. Even if there is, I can't afford it now. Returned home according to the original route. Lying in bed, I began to think about everything that happened today. Up to now, Chi-Tien still couldn't believe it. 3 Guyu, Cha Tonla, Shadow Clone, these are far from enough. And I don't know my current chakra attributes. In desperation, Chi-Tien slowly fell asleep. Boom boom boom. The next day, Chi-Tien was awakened by a rapid knock on the door. Although very reluctant, but still got up and walked out. He also wanted to see which turtle grandson was disturbing his sleep. Who? It's a good day off, can't you let me have a good rest? Sake-Tien opened the door very angrily. Asma, what are you doing here? After seeing Asma, Kishin was still a little surprised. I just beat him up yesterday, and I came today just to get it back. Asma stood at the gate and looked at Kishin without saying a word. I'm going to challenge you again, I didn't play well yesterday. Today I must beat you. Asma pointed at Kishin angrily. Kishin felt that this person was very boring, and facing such a person, Kishin also felt very speechless. No time. As soon as the words fell, Kishin wanted to close the door of the house and go back to sleep. Asma instantly pushed the door that was about to be closed with her hands. No, I have to challenge today. Otherwise I won't admit defeat. Asma is determined to fight Kishin. Ouch, I'm so short-tempered. Aren't you out of your mind? It's not fun to find it early in the morning. Did you forget what happened yesterday? Okay, if this is the case, then I will fulfill you. If you lose this time, don't bother me again in the future. Sakiden opened the door, very angry. Asma was very excited after hearing that Kishin agreed. Chi-Tien looked at his stupid look, shook his head slightly, then turned and walked towards the yard. It's hopelessly stupid. Right here, I'll make it quick. After cleaning you up, I have to go to sleep. Kishin stood in the yard and yawned. Without saying a word, Asma rolled up her sleeves and came in front of him. Let's start. Sakiden was very impatient. Asma didn't show any signs of ink, and rushed to Kishin in an instant and was about to start attacking. A right hook hit Sakiden in the face. Chi-Tien looked at the fist and squatted unhurriedly to dodge. The right hook hits nothing, and Asma gritted her teeth and swung her left again. After avoiding the attack, Kishin didn't make too many movements. He stretched out his fist and gave Asma an uppercut directly. Bang! An uppercut sent Asma backflipping and crashing to the ground. Looking at Asma who was lying on the ground, his eyes were fixed. Hands knotted. Bang! Bang! A puff of smoke rose and dispersed, and 2 clones appeared next to it. Give me a good repair, so as not to trouble me all the time in the future. The clone rushed to Asma's side in an instant, and then started punching and kicking. The scene was intense. Asma curled up on the ground and grew a ball. He was also very surprised. Ordinary avatars do not have the conditions to attack at all, while other avatars not only have entities but can also attack. There are various indications that his strength is below Chi-Tien. There are also many secrets in Chi-Tien that he does not know. After a few minutes, he was swollen into a pig's head. The avatar dispersed, Kishin walked up to him, and then squatted down. How about it, kid? Do you want to accept it? Sake Tien smiled faintly. Asma sat up slowly, and lightly tapped her pig's head. Clothes. After more than 10 seconds, he struggled to squeeze out the word obedience from his mouth. When you see me in the future, you will call me Big Brother, do you understand? Sakishin looked at Asma with a smile. Understood, Big Brother. Although very unconvinced, the strength gap between the two is indeed very large. And Asma also realizes this. If there is nothing wrong, get out of here. I still want to sleep. Kishin knew that Asma would not bow his head so easily, and also knew that there would definitely be some conflicts in the future. But now no matter what, he must be given a blow. If she has been weak, then Asma will definitely push forward. Asma gritted her teeth and left here directly. Kishin put his hands in his pockets, looking at the open door, thinking about something. Brother, this feeling is so cool. If I can recruit a few more younger brothers, it will definitely be very beneficial to my future career. Because they haven't grown up yet, hurry up and talk about a few more younger brothers. Maybe I can lie flat in the future. Haha. Chi Tien came to the front and gently closed the door. Ding, it is detected that the host's emotions are extremely intense, and the bloodline is ashamed of your idea of wanting to rely on your younger brother to lie down and win, and it has automatically blackened. Ding, congratulations, the fire escape how fireball art has successfully evolved and has reached the perfect level. After hearing the sound of the system, Kishin stood there a little stunned. Then the corners of his mouth rose slightly. Even if you want to be lazy. These days, even the system has such high requirements on the host. It is even contemptible in many cases. I thought I could really rely on my little brother to be able to lie flat. Now it seems that things are not that simple. They actually directly improved my ninjutsu. It seems that this is trying to let me solve it myself. Sakishin shook his head with a half smile. There is no way to do this, and it is not easy to get the sincere treatment of these people. Walk slowly into the yard, then look up at the sky. Now all he could think about was what was next. Phew, I'm not in the mood to sleep now. Let's go out for a walk. Take advantage of this time to get familiar with the surrounding environment. Maybe we can encounter something special. Sake Tien went back to the room, got dressed and left the house again. Walking on this road, looking at those people passing by. At this moment, he didn't know what to do with himself. Confused. On the second day of coming to this world, sometimes I feel very helpless. Although there is enough understanding of every character here, but when facing them, I feel very strange. It will remain hidden for the rest of the day. Walking aimlessly on the main road, Kishin soon deviated from the main road and came to a training ground surrounded by Konoha. Now my strength is still not strong enough. Try to improve my strength before going to the battlefield. I'm learning some ninjutsu. Maybe I'll be lucky enough to survive on the battlefield. Sake Tien is actually quite optimistic. After all, he has come to the world of Naruto, and there is no way to go back. And the system has been activated. Anyway, the pressure now is not as great as before. There is still a long time before the enemies to face. Kishin also has to believe that he can break through himself during this period of time. What's more, he is also a systematic person now. 997, 998, 999. At this moment, Chi Tien faintly heard voices talking nearby. Looking in the direction of the sound, Kishin found that someone was training in the training ground. Walking forward slowly, a boy in a green tights, with a watermelon-like hairstyle, thick eyebrows and big eyes appeared in Chi Tien's vision. At this time, the boy was sitting on his stomach and sitting on the ground. Listening to the words in his mouth, he could know that he had done 1,000 push-ups. Although he was already sweating profusely from exhaustion, he still had a happy smile on his face. Shaoli, oh no, it's Kai. It's Maidai when he was a teenager. I didn't expect that he looks very similar. If I'm not familiar with the whole plot, I really might not be able to tell the difference. Kishin looked at Maidai and thought to himself. Matt K, the man who almost kicked out the finale with one kick. For Matt K, there is also this unique dressing. Sake Tien couldn't be more familiar with it. Kai didn't notice Chi Tian's appearance at all, and Chi Tian didn't go in front of him. Yaxi, 1000 completed. It's time to rest. Wait a while to review the whole set of body skills that you paid for me. It's really hard to practice. After Kai finished the last push-up, he sat next to him and began to rest. Sakiden also seemed very interested in looking at Kai. The gymnastics that I just heard, Saketian is also the most interested thing. In the original book, the relationship between Kai and Kakashi is very good. And Kai has been challenging Kakashi, trying to defeat him. Chi Tian suddenly felt a little admiration for such a real man. At this moment, Kishin wanted to move his body and find a better place to observe. Gaba. Kishin accidentally stepped on the branch next to his feet and broke it. Very flustered and instantly squatted down. The atmosphere dare not breathe. And Kishin doesn't want to get in touch with such a character now. Who's there? Come out. After hearing the voice, Kai immediately became vigilant. He stood up and looked towards the source of the sound, and shouted loudly. What a shame. It's just at this time. Kishin felt as if 10,000 alpacas were running past. Obviously, it's hard to explain now if you don't go out yourself. It would be very embarrassing to go out now, but at the same time, there is no way to explain it if I don't go out. K, it's me. Saketian greeted him very warmly with a smile on his face. After hesitating again and again, Kishin finally walked out of the grass slowly. Kai looked at Chi Tian, raised his thick eyebrows, and stared. It turned out to be Sakiden-kun. I didn't expect you to be there. After Kai saw that this person was Saketian, he said very enthusiastically. Sakishin nodded with a slight embarrassment and smiled. The two are now classmates, although usually very little contact. But after Sakishin got in the limelight yesterday, everyone in the class knew Sakishin. It's really a coincidence. Isn't today a rest day, and I have nothing to do at home? Then I thought about going out for a walk. Who knew that I came here while walking? I saw you were training, and I didn't come to disturb you. Kishin came to Kai. Kai looked at Sakiden with his mouth wide open and laughed. It's really a coincidence. I didn't expect the two of us to meet in this kind of place. Kai stretched out his hand and patted Sakishin's shoulder. At this time, his guard had been completely let down. Kishin felt that Kai was different from before, and he was slightly relieved. After all, it would be troublesome to be regarded as a voyeur. Saketen-kun, I really didn't expect your strength to be so powerful. I always thought you were the tail of the crane before, but now it seems that you are really worthy of my admiration. You must have worked hard in normal times. Kei asked enthusiastically. Sakishin felt a little embarrassed. Although he didn't answer anything, he could only nod slightly. Do you usually train like this? If it were me, I would definitely not be able to persist. So there is still a big gap between the two of us. Saketian replied very modestly. Kai opened his mouth wide and smiled again. I didn't see that you were so humble. Anyway, there is nothing to do now, or let's train together. Since Kakashi graduated early, I rarely see him again. And I also hope to find someone who can break through. Kai looked at Saketian and said very seriously. Sakita nodded with a smile on his face. If you can train with him next time, then you will have a way to know what the physical skill he is talking about is. If it wasn't for that physical skill, he wouldn't want to be subjected to this inhuman training method. I just heard you seem to be talking about physical skills, and it's not that easy. Can you tell me? I also want to learn something new. Sakiden's head was spinning rapidly. Kai laughed heartlessly. Of course, but I still need to see if you are eligible to study. I didn't mean to make things difficult for you. The ninjutsu my father taught me is not something ordinary people can practice. Kai made a pose that he thought was handsome. Sakita smiled and nodded. This result really caught him by surprise. I thought the process was very difficult. Who would have thought that it would be extremely smooth? But the next test is where hell really begins. Time passed by minute by minute. Saketian also finished during this time, things that he had never done before. 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 handstands. After doing this, Sakishin lay down on the ground and took a big mouthful of air. Now he feels that this body is no longer his own. Really tired. What am I trying to figure out? Powerful physical skills. If you can really learn such a powerful physical skill, it's all worth it too. Kishin lay on the ground looking at the sky and thinking to himself. If in the end the powerful body technique is not what I want, Sake Tien will most likely be pissed off. Sake Ten-kun, I really didn't see that your guaranteed body can do it. It seems that I really underestimated you. I'm really sorry. Kai came over suddenly, took Kishin's hand and said excitedly. That look seemed familiar. K, there's really no need for that. Have I passed the test now? Chi Tien hastily withdrew his hand back. I thought, what are you doing? Two men holding hands, I don't want to do. K stood up suddenly, then pointed his thumb at himself. Youth should be full of sweat. Then let's get to the point. Kai squatted down again, looking at Kishin with piercing eyes. Seeing this look in his eyes, Kishin shivered inadvertently. In order to be able to learn powerful taijutsu, Kishin also sacrificed a lot. But he accepted them willingly. But Kishin didn't expect his physical fitness to be so poor. The current physical skills are really weak and cannot be weak anymore. Fortunately, there are only these simple things in the test. If you want me to fight with Kai, you will really only have to be beaten. The consequences are serious. Kishin looked at the smiling Kai and thought to himself. Ding, your basic physical skills feel insulted by cursing. And you directly entered the blackening mode. Ding, the body technique has been blackened successfully, and it has become a perfect level. At this time, the sound of the system suddenly sounded. After listening to the system's voice, Kishin froze again. At this time, he felt the power of the system again. There were too many surprises brought to him in just 2 days. And he has grown a lot in these 2 days. Due to the successful evolution of taijutsu, Kishin can also feel the changes in his body very clearly. The body is much stronger than before, and the muscles are much more obvious than before. The fatigue just now has disappeared without a trace. It's so powerful, now I feel perfect is the word that describes me. Kishin stood up very excitedly, and he already had enough confidence at this time. K, then stop wasting our youth. Hurry up and get started, I can't wait to try new things. In order to cater to Kai, Kishin also made a handsome pose that he thought was very disgusting. Kai stretched out his thumb, and then showed his white teeth. Sakadin was almost blinded by the reflection of the sun. So white, what do you use to brush your teeth? It works so well. Sake Tien narrowed his eyes and smiled. Okay, then let us cheer for our youth together. Listen carefully to what I'm going to say next. Kai looked at Sake and smiled. Sake Tien regained his energy all of a sudden, and then nodded. This set of body art secrets is called Bamindunjia, which was also taught to me by my father. Although I didn't get his consent, I have already seen the shadow of my past in you. I believe that my father will not blame me, and I also believe that my father will recognize you. Kai Ji Li Ji Yula said a lot. And Kishin only has 4 words in his mind now, Bamindunjia. The rest are automatically blocked. After all, his goal this time is the 8-door Dunjia. If he could learn the 8 gates Dunjia, it would be another great improvement to his strength. Bamindunjia is actually very easy to understand. It is to gain powerful power in a short time by unlocking the channel that binds chakra in the human body. That's exactly what my father said. Kai thought about it very hard, trying not to miss a single word. When the 8 gates are fully opened, it is also called the 8 gates Dunjia formation, which can instantly gain dozens of times the power over the 5 shadows. However, the power of the 8 gates of Dunjia depends on the caster, which is multiplied by the power of the caster, so different people have different powers after opening the 8 gates of Dunjia. After opening the 8th gate, the gate of death, one will also die due to the exhaustion of one's own vitality. Kishin had fully understood the pros and cons of Bamindunjia a long time ago. He is also very familiar with these things. It took my father 20 years to master this body art. Kai said thoughtfully. Chi Tien was very excited at the moment, he never expected to encounter such a good thing when he came out today. The 8 gates, of opening the gate, resting gate, life gate, injury gate, do gate, scene gate, startling gate, and death gate. Every time you open a door, you will gain double or several times the power. The most important point is that the last door among the 8 doors, the door of death must not be opened unless it is absolutely necessary. Once opened, the only result is death. Kai suddenly became serious at this moment, which was also the expression when his father taught him. And he also knew that his father would never joke about these things. Sake Tien knew a lot about Bamindunjia, so he didn't care much about other things. But at the same time, he also knew the danger of the last door, and he would definitely pay a painful price after using it. After opening the 8th gate, the gate of death, one will also die due to the exhaustion of one's own vitality. Now he only wants to concentrate on learning Bamindunjia. Kai looked at the hot blood in Chi Tien's eyes, opened his mouth again and laughed. Sakiden-kun, I did not misread you. It's not too late, let's train. Kai strikes a very handsome pose again. Konoha Village Training Ground. The two teenagers were training hard together at this time. Kai and Kishin explained the principles and the most basic training methods. Sake Tien can't wait to try it now. One door, open. Chi Tien stood in the middle of the training ground, striding forward and shouting at the top of his voice. The initial training of Bamindunjia is not particularly difficult, the most difficult thing is the continuous training and strengthening. The most critical reason is that the premise of using Bamindunjia is unconventional, overloaded, and long-term training beyond the limit. This is also the first time Kishin has tried, and he doesn't have too much expectation for his talent. After all, the previous owner of the body was also mediocre. As the voice fell, the chakra in the body began to surge, and Kishin tried to open the first door. It's just that after more than a dozen times, there is still no breakthrough. He didn't even figure out the acupuncture points of chakra. This also made Kishin feel very distressed, but he couldn't complain. After all, ordinary talents can only be improved by hard training. Strange. Where is the problem? I have no idea right now. The 8 Dunjias really aren't that easy to cultivate. Sakishin looked at his hands very curiously. At this time, Kai also seemed to understand all of Sakishin's doubts. It's okay, don't be too sad. How can I be better than you for the first time? In this case, let me explain it to you in detail. I'm sure you'll understand in time. Kai patted Sakiden on the shoulder with a smile on his face. Sakita smiled and nodded. Kai stood beside Sakiden and started the first preparations. After a moment, the first door, open. As soon as the words fell, there was a bang, and Kai's body suddenly burst into breath. After just a few seconds, this breath disappeared without a trace. Although it was only for a few seconds, Kishin could clearly feel it. Clap clap clap. Kishin looked at Kai and said that he was very impressed, and started to applaud. Actually, I feel that the first door is relatively easy. As long as you master the principles, it will be easy to open. Don't be too disappointed. Back then, it only took me more than an hour to master it. Kai once again struck a pose that he thought was very handsome. After Chi Tien heard what he said just now, he suddenly felt a trace of contempt. Emperor Kai, you really deserve to be Emperor Kai. Although I don't know if it's true or not, but judging by his appearance, it doesn't look like he will tell lies. If this is the case, it is really amazing. In just 1 hour, you can realize the principle. In comparison, my physique talent is really rubbish. Ah, there is no perfect person in this world. Since my physical talent is so rubbish, I can only accept my fate obediently. Chi Tien lowered his head and was secretly unhappy. All along, I feel that I am the protagonist, so I have the confidence before. Now even the system is unreliable. If the system is more reliable, then I. Just when Sake Tien complained. Ding, when you complained, the physical talent was very sad, and he was already crying. Ding, because your complaints have pierced the heart of the physical talent secretly vowed to become stronger, and directly blackened. Ding, the physical talent has become stronger and the mind is too strong. You have upgraded to a very high level. Congratulations, you have mastered the forbidden art 8-door Dunjia. The current level beginner, you can open to the 3rd door. A series of sounds from the system frightened Kishin, and he sat on the ground all of a sudden. After a while, I was extremely excited again. I'll go, I can complain, if I knew it, I would have complained earlier. Heaven will not kill me. Sakita was instantly excited. Although he knows that the system can bring him many surprises, he is very excited every time. Full of confidence, I stepped forward again. 8-door Dunjia, the first door, open. As soon as the words fell, the chakra in Chi Tian's body directly broke through the first door, surging all over his body, and a strong breath also came out. Woohoo! A thick breath whirled around the body. At this moment, the first door opened and was successfully opened. Kai was surprised by the sudden powerful breath. Success! Sakuten-kun, congratulations! Kai looked at Kishin, feeling happier than breaking through. Thank you, K. Brother, if you are useful to me in the future, you must tell me, don't be polite. Chi Tian very politely called him brother and brother. Sakuten-kun, you are really too polite, I really did not misread you. K is also a very straightforward person. Sakishin clenched his fists to feel his own situation again. The strength is indeed several times greater than before, and the whole person is much more energetic. In terms of physical strength, I feel that there is a steady stream of energy that cannot be exhausted. It has been maintained for such a long time now, and I don't feel any discomfort. Chi Tian felt that this was all due to the system. Suddenly it feels very scary. If there is no systematic help, who knows when I will be able to practice. It is even impossible to complete it in this lifetime. Sake was extremely happy, and through the words of the system just now, he also understood the current situation. Although it is only a primary level, the third door can still be opened. Now he can't wait even more, wanting to try the next few doors. Get back on the spot, get into position and get ready to break through again. The second door, open. As soon as the words fell, the chakra in the body began to surge again. The air waves around the body are stronger than before. Blowing directly to Kai next to him made him take a few steps back, a little bit unable to open his eyes. After standing firmly on his feet, he looked at Kishin, with a little shock in his eyes. For such a genius, Kai still admires it very much, not to mention that this is the first time to open the door. Chapter 11. Sure enough, it's different. It's stronger than the previous one. This feeling is really great. Both strength and speed have been improved, and the fatigue is much less. Chi Tian felt that the power of the second door was much stronger than the first door. Kai looked at Chi Tian, who was breathing all over his body, with an extremely complicated expression, but his heart was extremely excited. Looking at Sakuten was like seeing a god. It took only a short while to open the second door. After a while, Kishin's breath completely disappeared, and he returned to his normal state. Sakuten-kun, you are really amazing. It's really worthy of being someone I trust. Kai came to Kishin very excitedly and hugged him up. Kai, let me go, cough cough cough. Sake Tian was a little out of breath under the enthusiastic Kai. Sorry, so excited. Kai let go of Sakita instantly, scratching his head a little embarrassed. Looking at Kai's appearance, Kishin wanted to laugh a little, but finally held back. Understood, it's okay. The two looked at each other and giggled. Having experienced the power brought to him by Bamindunjia, Sakishin clenched his fists and looked forward to the future again. Sake-ten-kun, I really didn't expect your talent to be so good. I now officially announce that you have become my opponent, and I will definitely surpass you. And I will also tell my father the news, I believe he will be very happy. Kai looked at Chi Tian happily, unable to conceal the joy in his heart. Kishin didn't say anything, but Kai's father taught him the Bamindunjia, so it's necessary to say something. Well, no problem. In the future, the two of us can also train together. I believe that we will be able to break through in a short time. Sakishin looked at Kai and smiled. The system gave him 3 doors, but Chi Tian only opened 2 doors. This is also not too publicized. Compared with opening 3 doors just after learning, it is indeed a bit difficult to explain. Then it's settled. Now I can't wait to tell my father. Farewell first. See you at school tomorrow. After Kai said goodbye, he happily bounced and left here, leaving Chi Tian standing alone. It's really the same as the original. Now I can open 3 doors, which is really a great help to me. Seeing the changes in his body, Sakishin smiled. Leaving the training ground and returning home. Sitting on the sofa, he thought carefully about the Bamindunjia he knew. Open the door. Remove the restrictions of the brain domain, in order to achieve the purpose of exerting 100% of the physical ability, and overload the body to increase the attack and speed. After opening, you can use it, the Ao Lianhua. Resting the door. relieve the physical fatigue limit, overload the body to squeeze the energy to restore the physical strength, and offset the fatigue caused by the energy consumption speed of opening the door. Shungmin, further increase the attack and speed, and the body begins to congest and turn red. In the final safe zone of Baman Dunjia, the body begins to emit green energy. After opening, you can use it, Li Lianhua. Now he can only open these 3 doors, but for Qi Tian at this time, it is enough. After a short rest, Kishin decided to go out again because there was no food at home. Almost forgot, my pocket is cleaner than my face now. Qi Tian sat down on the sofa weakly. Hungry, and no money, it's really hard for a penny to beat a hero. But at this moment, Kishin suddenly noticed the clothes he was wearing, which made him very curious. An orphan, a poor boy, but very well clothed, it doesn't make sense. Strange, did this kid hide the money? Kishin was a little curious. Suddenly a small memory flooded out. With this memory, Kishin finally understood the relationship between them. Originally, Kishin had been bullied all the time, and was also asked for money by some gangsters. After a few times, he simply hid the money. Although the money was saved, a beating was still inevitable. Brother, don't worry, since I am now, you will not let the previous things happen again. I will live for the 2 of us in the future. All those who bullied you before will be punished as they should be. Kishin clenched his fists and swore to himself. Although he already knew the reason for this, there was no place to hide money in his memory, which also made Kishin feel very distressed. You know, no matter when, strength and money are very important things. Indispensable. I cleaned the whole house before, and found no place to hide money. After thinking about it carefully, I finally decided to come to the bedroom to take a look. After all, only this place is the most suspect. It's really stupid, where did you hide the money? Kishin searched for a long time and still didn't get anything. At this moment, he accidentally knocked over the water glass on the table to the ground. The water flowed all over the ground at once. Waiting for the next scene gave Qi Tian a glimmer of anticipation. The water on the ground slowly flowed to the corner, and finally all flowed in. Is there something strange here? Qi Tian didn't think too much, and directly found tools to pry open the corner of the wall. After a lot of tossing and turning, I finally saw the inside. Lie down on the body and reach out to touch it, you can clearly feel that there is a hard box. After touching the box, the corners of Sakuden's mouth raised. Now he feels that he has found what he was looking for. Take it out of the box very carefully. This box is not small in size, and it is all metal. Ding 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 ding. After shaking it around, I found that there was indeed something inside. Opening the box, Qi Tian was stunned. There was a whole box of money in it, and there were a lot of them. I really didn't think they were all hidden here. I really can't see that this kid is so rich. Kishin was very happy sitting on the ground with the box in his arms. Now at least I don't have to worry about money anymore. That much money is enough for him for a long time. After sorting out all the money in the box, the final result was beyond my expectation. Good guy, I really can't see that there are so many. This is really a timely help. Tian moved all the money to the side, and then put the box on the table. Now that I have so much money, I can have a full meal. I took a small part of the money and put it in my pocket, and put all the rest of the money in the original place. Taking the money, he walked out of the house happily and came to the street. I have a little donkey and never ride it. Tian, who was walking on the road, was very happy. This is also the first time he has had so much money. After thinking about it carefully, I realized that I only know Ichiraku Ramen, a place to eat. Although I passed by many restaurants, I didn't know how it tasted. And there is only so much money in my hands now. If you keep using it indiscriminately, it will be spent quickly. Finally decided to eat ramen. Standing at the very familiar doorway, I still looked up at the signboard. Just when Tian was looking at the signboard. Tian, help! Suddenly there was a very urgent shout from behind. After hearing the voice, Qi Tian hurriedly turned his head to look. I saw a little loli in a kimono running towards him. Sunset red. Kishin immediately saw that this girl was his deskmate. But then, he found 3 teenagers chasing her. Combined with the help he just heard, Kishin seems to have understood the whole thing. Sake Tien, that's great. You were really my life-saving straw. Kurenai Yuhi came to Sake Tien and spoke out of breath. Sake Tien nodded, and stood in front of Yui Hong in a blink of an eye. The three teenagers slowed down their pace at this moment, but when they saw Kishin, they started to smile badly again. These three are, so it's the three of them, it's really a narrow road to encounter. Brother, this time I can finally avenge you. Kishin searched carefully in his memory. Finally, I learned that these three people were the teenagers who had been bullying the original owner before. The three of them are all little hooligans in the society, and they usually have nothing to do, they only know how to bully those who are younger than them. Blackmail their money. Sakatan, they want to take me to eat yogurt. You must help me. Kurenai Yuhi behind him grabbed the corner of Sakishin's clothes, seeming a little worried. Yogurt, the children here are very precocious. Kishin looked at Yui Hong's very cute lowly face, and her very outstanding face. As an LSP, I instantly understood what was going on. It's okay, Xiao Honghong. Just let me settle it. Sake Tien turned his head and comforted Yui Hong with a smile on his face. Hearing Xiao Honghong, Yui Hong's face instantly turned red, but without the slightest boredom. The three punks came in front of the two of them, all showing very evil smiles. Yo, isn't this Sake Tien? I really haven't seen you for a while. How, are you rich now? Be sensible and give us the money. We won't beat you up. Yes, and the girl in the back, I advise you not to meddle in other people's business. Otherwise, you will feel better. The three gangsters looked at Kishin as if they were looking at a lost dog. Chi Tien looked at the three of them and shook his head very disdainfully. Money, no, you can't take her away either. Kishin pointed his middle finger at them. The three punks were instantly enraged. Good boy, since you are so unhappy looking for it, then I will fulfill you. Give it to me. One of the hedgehog-headed punks became angry. Sake Tien patted Yuhi Kureno on the head, and then showed her a very beautiful smile. It's okay, just leave it to me. Yui Hong slowly let go of the corner of the clothes he had just grasped, but at this moment his heart was beating very fast. At this moment, the two punks were almost about to rush in front of them. Chi Tien turned his head, his eyes fixed, as if he had seen their end. The two punks immediately surrounded him from left to right, and surrounded Chi Tien in the middle. Start attacking from two different directions. One door, open. Since he learned Baman Dunjia last time, Kishin has been looking for an opportunity to test it out. And this moment is exactly the opportunity I was looking for. Chakra wandered around every part of the body, and a breath appeared around the body instantly. Let's start. Chi Tien took the lead and rushed directly in front of the little gangster on the left. Due to the very fast speed, the little gangster had no time to react, and Chi Tien had already grabbed his neck, then lifted him high, and instantly pressed him to the ground. Bang! There was a real kiss between the body and the earth. The little gangster's eyes were empty, and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Weak chicken. Chi Tien clapped his hands, and then shifted his gaze to another gangster. Although the grievances I suffered before were not my own, but now this body is indeed someone else's. It is also to do something to repay others. Otherwise, I really can't justify it. Come on, I hope you can be useful. Chi Tien waved at the little gangster. The little gangster looked at the very arrogant Chi Tien, and seemed to hesitate. It doesn't feel the same as before. Baga, fight. The little gangster glanced at the hedgehog's head and cursed secretly. He clenched his fist and was about to rush over when he heard other voices. Ah, Hong, I'm here to save you. The four heard the sound and found that Asma was running towards them quickly. If ever there was a coincidence, it was this one. Asma, why is he here? Chi Tien looked at Asma very puzzled. Asma passed through several people directly, and threw a flying kick towards the little gangster who jumped into the air. However, this kick was empty. What's the matter? Give me a slap. The little gangster hurriedly turned his head to look, and found Asma sitting on the ground shivering in a sprawl. This idiot. Chi Tien covered his eyes with his hands in horror. The little gangster looked at Asma on the ground and kicked him to the ground. Then started punching and kicking. Didn't you come here intentionally to cause trouble? Little brother or something, it's really unnecessary. Chi Tien sighed softly, and then ran towards the place where the two of them were alone. Boom. Kick the little fool away with one kick. Asma, what are you doing here? After Chi Tian kicked the little fool away, he patted him on the shoulder. Asma turned her head tremblingly. But after seeing his appearance, he almost couldn't hold back. This thing has become a pig's head, black and blue. Even when he gets home, his parents may not be able to recognize him. Why are you so careless? Sake Tien tried hard to restrain the thought of laughing. Asma didn't say anything. After all, his face was already swollen and there was no way to swell any more. Opening your mouth even a little bit can be very painful. Sakishin shook his head helplessly. With such strength, I still have to learn from others to save the beauty. I think it's better to improve your strength if you have time. After Kishin finished speaking, he went directly to the little gangster who had just been kicked away. Looking at the little gangster, Kishin didn't talk nonsense and picked him up directly. Clenching a fist with his right hand, he instantly pulled it upwards and hit the little gangster in the stomach. A muffled sound sounded. The little fool was like a shrimp, bending over and arching, and the saliva also spewed out. After seeing such a scene, Asma next to her suddenly recalled that day at school. Chi Tian immediately kicked the little fool away. Then he turned and walked towards the hedgehog head. Now you are the only one left. If you have anything to say, I advise you to speak up as soon as possible, so as not to wait a while and not be able to tell. Chi Tian walked towards the hedgehog head with a smile. Hedgehog's performance was beyond Chi Tian's expectation. Standing there and smiling softly, without the slightest fear. No, it turned out to be stronger when I thought about it. Don't think that the two of them can deal with me just by defeating me. Don't think that you can do whatever you want if you become stronger. The hedgehog head let out a taunt. Sakita smiled. It's really embarrassing. I can really do whatever I want now. As soon as the words fell, Kishin came to him in an instant. Hands nodded. With two bang bangs, two more clones appeared beside Chi Tian instantly. As soon as he lifted his foot, he kicked the hedgehog's head into the air. Chi Tian jumped up, raised his legs high in the air, and came to kill him. Boom! The hedgehog head hit the ground hard. A mouthful of blood spurted out. That's it. Sake Tien stepped on the chest of the hedgehog head. Just now, it was revenge for bullying me before. If it happens again in the future, the situation before and now, I promise you won't survive that day. Chi Tien stepped on it hard, and the hedgehog head struggled desperately. But for Sake Tien in the one-door mode, no matter how hard he struggles, it will be useless. Looking at the face of the hedgehog head, the memory of being bullied before flashed out again in his mind. Gritting his teeth, he kicked hard, kicking the hedgehog's head several meters away. This time it's a warning to you, but next time it won't be so easy to understand. The aura on Kishin's body slowly disappeared, and he returned to his original state. Kurenai Yuhi was still worried about Sakishin just now, but now this result really surprised her. When she first saw Sakiden, Kurenai Yuhi felt a little bit worried. But now the result is still very good. How is it? Can you stand up? Chi Tian walked to Asma's side and stretched out his hand towards him. Asma nodded slightly, then held out her hand. Sakiden pulled Asma up from the ground at once. Looking at his face, which is also called a pig's head, Chi Tian smiled slightly at the corner of his mouth. Yui Hong also ran to the side of the two of them at this time. Okay, there's nothing else to do now. I feel like they won't come to trouble again in the future. Sakiden looked at Yuhiko's lowly face and smiled. Kurenai Yuhi nodded with a smile. At this moment, she once again refreshed her understanding of Sakiden. Asma looked at Kurenai Yuhi and unconsciously lowered her head. He feels that the way he is now is really ugly. Asma, don't move, hurry up and treat your wound. If it goes on for a long time, it is very likely to leave scars. You look so cute. Yui Hong took out some of the most basic medicines from behind her. Kishin looked at the pig-headed Asma and smiled. Sometimes he also felt that his youth was really good. Fearless and able to stand up for the girl you like, and will not be afraid of anyone. Asma nodded. Yui Hong took out the potion and gently wiped it on his face. Hiss. Asma's body trembled, but he quickly suppressed it. After all, you can't admit cowardice in front of the girl you like. Hong, am I very powerful, although I have become a pig's head now? But my courage is still very good. You can take the initiative to clean up my wound. Are you already planning to accept me? Asma suppressed the pain and squeezed out a very ugly smile. Kurenai Yuhi's hand wiping the wound stopped suddenly. Then he pressed the wound hard again. Ah, it hurts. Asma couldn't hold on anymore, covered her face and started rolling on the ground. Asma, I cleaned your wound purely because of our friendship. Never think that I have promised you, and I believe I will not promise you in the future. The most important thing is that you didn't seem to play much role this time. Yui Hong puffed up her mouth and said whiningly. It really deserves it. I really take all the benefits from myself. I really don't know what the 3-generation-old man will think when he sees him like this. Chi Tian stood aside and watched the two of them. Asma clutched her pig's head and lay on the ground in pain. But then, he suddenly sat up again. I won't give up. Sooner or later, I will let you see my sincerity. Yui Hong looked at him and dropped the things in her hands on the ground. You handle it yourself. HMPH. After speaking, he came to the side of Sake Tien. Sake Tien, thank you for your help today. If it wasn't for you, I'd really probably be eating their yogurt. Honestly, I don't really like yogurt. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakiden with a smile. Sakita smiled. It's really too simple. She has a lowly face, and her thoughts are so simple. If it was in the original world, it would suffer a lot. You're welcome. Besides, we're friends too. Helping each other is the right thing to do. A few minutes later, Sakiden felt very hungry again. Then look at the eel ramen next to it. Have you eaten yet? Why don't we go eat ramen together? Sake Tien looked at Kurenai Yuhi and smiled. Kurenai Yuhi nodded, and happily ran to his side. The two nodded to each other and walked towards the ramen restaurant together. You two wait for me, I'm going too. Asma covered her face and yelled loudly. Then he quickened his pace and came behind them. The three of them walked into eel ramen together, and ordered a bowl of their favorite one after another. Chi Tien's stomach was already very hungry. If it wasn't for what happened just now, he would have been full already. The three of them ate ramen to their heart's content. After walking out, 3 people stood on the street. Brother Tien, I will be your little brother from now on. Call me for anything. Through these few times, I also realized your strength. I will definitely work hard for you in the future. Asma suddenly said very seriously. Kishin looked at Asma's very serious expression and believed that everything he said was true. Ha ha, I never thought that I, Kishin, would have a younger brother one day. Okay, I'll take care of you from now on. Sakita patted his shoulder lightly, then laughed. Seeing the two of them getting along now, Yui Hong couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. As my classmate, also as my friend. Of course Yui Hong didn't want to see the two of them at odds. This was indeed what she wanted very much now. It feels so good to be the boss. In the future, if I recruit a few more younger brothers, then I will really have a certain strength. Ding, it was detected that the host was extremely excited. The blood vessels have gradually darkened. Ding, the 8th-door Dunjia has been blackened successfully, and the current level can be opened to the 4th door. While they were talking, Kishin suddenly heard the voice of the system. But in a blink of an eye, he smiled slightly again. Looking up at the sky, I seem to see a bright future for myself. The three talked a lot, and then separated from the fork in the road and returned home. After Chi Tian returned home, he was so excited that he couldn't sleep. Sitting in the living room looking out at the sky. Today, he successfully upgraded the 8 doors of Dunjia to the 4th door. For him, this is another big improvement. God is so good to me. And the system is so good. I believe that it won't be long before I, Kishin, can dominate here. What Madara, Obito, and 6 Paths, they won't all be younger brothers by then. Ha ha ha. Sakishin looked at the sky and laughed loudly. The next day. Ninja school. At this time, the ninja school is more lively than usual, everyone is chatting, and it is in full swing. It's so lively. What day is it today? Chi Tian looked at those people in the class who were desperately discussing, and looked at Kuroyuki curiously. Oh, don't you know? Today and tomorrow is the annual exam, and this year will end soon. There will be exams every year. The teacher has already said that. Kurenai Yuhi tidied up her things and looked at Sakishin in surprise. Annual exam. Once a year. So that's the case, I forgot. Ha ha. Hearing the news, Sakishin smiled awkwardly. It's normal to not know, but this year's exam seems to be very important. This year's annual exam seems to be different, and the content of the exam has changed. In addition to the most basic assessment, a dual practice has been added. It seems that 2 people with adjacent rankings are practicing. There will be rewards for the top 3 at the end. Yui Hong stroked her chin with her fingers and thought for a while. Kishin looked at the students around him, all of them were extremely excited. It seems that everyone is looking forward to number 1 this year. It seems that the annual exam is of great significance to them. Maybe number 1 has a special reward. Sakita thought thoughtfully. At this moment, the teacher took something and walked into the classroom slowly. All eyes were on the teacher. Be quiet, everyone. There is an announcement to be made next. The teacher looked at the students and said a few words loudly. Everyone fell silent. I'm really sorry. The annual exam will be postponed this time. The specific reason is that there are not so many invigilators. The postponement is to begin tomorrow afternoon. So now students still have 1.5 days to prepare. I wish you a good result then. After the teacher finished speaking, the whole class seemed to explode. Everyone is discussing this matter. It's really unexpected. Just another day and a half to rest well. Sake Tien didn't pay much attention to this exam at all. Kakashi had already graduated early and left school. Most of the rest of the people, Sake Tien is still relatively familiar. These people pose no threat to Sake Tien. Oh, it's so difficult. At this time, Yui Hong beside him sighed abnormally. What's the matter, aren't you happy that the exam is postponed? Sake Tien looked at Kurenai Yuhi very curiously. Of course. I'm glad the exam was postponed though. But it will also mean that our holiday is delayed by 2 days. I also hope to have a holiday earlier, so that I can have a good rest. Yui Hong put her mouth on the table. Sake Tien was a little at a loss after hearing her reason. Logically speaking, this is indeed the case. When I was in school, I was also looking forward to the holiday. It's okay, it's only 1 day. Anyway, this day and a half can be used for good training. At that time, you can get a good grade in the exam. Isn't he fragrant like this? Sake Tien comforted Kurenai Yuhi with a smile on his face. Yui Hong didn't say anything, but smiled and nodded gently. The teacher watched the whole class discussing without saying anything. Cough, cough, cough. Be quiet, there is still one thing that has not been announced. There is no way to postpone the exam this time, so you can use the rest of the next day and a half. This should be good news for you too. As soon as the teacher finished speaking, the whole class exploded again. Seeing such a scene, the teacher also readily accepted it. After all, I also came from my student days. I understand this feeling very well. I really didn't expect that the school is quite humane. Hong, this time I finally don't think it will delay our vacation. Sake Tien turned his head and looked at Yui Hong with a smile. Yui Hong smiled happily in an instant. Compared with just now, it looks like 2 people. Sakiden-kun, Sakiden-kun. At this moment, a person next to him patted Sakishin on the shoulder. Oh, Kei, come to see me for something. Chi Tien looked at Madokai next to him, a little curious. Didn't I tell you yesterday? I have already told my father the news. He wants to see you very much, too. Just now I was thinking about when I have time to tell you. Now it happens to be a holiday, and we can go together. Kei gave a very eager look. Whenever you see his eyes, it's like seeing a passionate young man. Ha, that's how it is. Okay then. Chi Tien looked at Kai who was looking forward to it very much, and he had no way to refuse. Yui Hong was also very curious to hear the conversation between the 2 of them. What the hell are you 2 talking about? Why can't I understand? Yui Hong looked at the 2 of them very curiously. Sakishin smiled, and then explained to her what was going on. Hearing the ins and outs of the whole thing, Yui Hong suddenly realized and became interested at the same time. So that's the case, can I go with you? Anyway, I don't have anything to do. Why don't I go and study with you? Even if you can't study, you can still play with you. Yui Hong showed a very pitiful expression and begged. Chi Tien and Kai looked at each other, and then smiled helplessly. If that's the case, there's no other way. Then let's go together. Sake Tien looked at Kurenai Yuhi and laughed. After being affirmed, Yui Hong jumped up happily. At this time, the three of them sorted out their things as quickly as possible, and then walked out of the classroom one after another. The three walked out and left the school. Kai led them towards the place agreed with his father. Chi Tien walked on the road, always very curious in his heart, and have been looking forward to it. This is also the first time he saw Might Duy, and he was very unsure what kind of performance he could have. Kai, I'm very curious about a question, can I ask you? Kishin quickened his pace and came to Kai's side. Of course, there's no problem. Kai replied with a smile on his face. That's right. About the 8 doors of Dunjia, how many doors can you open now? Sake Tien thought about it carefully, and then asked. Now I can only open to the 2nd door. But I will train hard every day. I believe it won't be long before I can open the 3rd door. Kei thought about it carefully, then answered. Sakita nodded. So it is. There are really some things that are beyond my expectations. There is no way to do this. Although you are the protagonists, I am the protagonist with the system. Kishin looked at Kai and thought with a smile. Yui Hong walked behind the two of them, jumping happily. Although I don't know what they are talking about, it is enough to take her along. Sakiden-kun, what door can you open now? Kei asked the same question. I want to keep this a secret. You'll find out after a while. Sake Tien said with a hippie smile. After seeing that there was no other way, Kai could only let it go. The three of them quickened their pace and soon arrived at the place they had agreed upon. It's still this place. We met in this place yesterday. After Chi Tien saw that this place was the training ground, he said a little happily. Kei nodded. Then let's go in, my father is already waiting for us inside. After Kai finished speaking, he walked directly into the training ground, followed by Sake Tien and Yui Hong. Yoshi, Kei, you're here. In the training ground, there was a man dressed the same as Kai, who greeted Kai. And also made a pose that he thought was very handsome. Kishin was stunned when he saw the father and son. Both of them have the same hairstyle and clothes. Putting it in Muya village is definitely a new trend. As the saying goes, the extreme soil is the trend. Uncle Dai, hello, I'm Kishin. Nice to meet you. Chi Tien came to Might Duy and greeted him very politely. Hello, Uncle Dai, I'm a classmate of the two of them. My name is Yui Hong. Kurenai Yuhi also made a very cute gesture, and greeted Might Duy with a smile. Might Duy looked at the two of them, then smiled. Father, this is the friend I told you about. Trust me, he's very talented. I think you won't be disappointed. Kai looked at Dai and introduced with a smile. When Kishin heard Kai introducing himself like this, how many times he felt helpless. My talent is very clear, if it is not because of the existence of the system, I would be a little spicy chicken now. Uncle Dai, I made you laugh. I think my talent is very average. And I'm also very honored to be able to learn Baman Dunjia. Chi Tien looked at Dai very politely and very modestly. Dai didn't say anything, but just looked at Sakishin all the time. Now he will definitely think so in his heart. Such a weak body. And it's so thin, how could it be possible to learn it? But my son is not the type to lie. Ha ha ha, come on, you don't have to be so restrained in front of me. Just relax a little bit. Dai burst out laughing at this moment. Compared with just now, it seems to be a different person. Kishin was not that surprised. After all, the three of them are very similar. Might Duy, Might Kei, Xiao Li. Yui Hong was obviously a little uncomfortable at this time. This was also the first time she had seen Might Duy. Sakishin smiled politely, and then walked forward. He can probably think of what will happen next. It's nothing more than to see if you have that kind of talent. At the same time, see if you have learned it. After all, Baman Dunjia is not so easy to learn, and it has high requirements on itself. If the requirements for their own conditions are very low, everyone will learn it. I heard from Kai yesterday, is this your first contact? And you opened 2 doors in a row. Dai looked at Kishin in front of him with some curiosity. Until now, he couldn't believe that the young man in front of him could do this. Back then, it took him 20 years to learn it. Such a brat was able to open the 2 doors in such a short period of time when he came into contact with it for the first time. No one would believe it if he hadn't seen it with his own eyes. Yes, indeed it is. There's nothing wrong with first contact. And I've opened both doors. It may be because of my good luck, or it may be because of other things. Sakita nodded with a smile on his face. He hides his secrets very well. Dai looked at Chi Tian's sincere eyes, and nodded after a while. Such eyes seemed to tell him that I really did not lie, these are the facts. Since this is the case, I can only let you show it off. It's not that I don't believe it, but if your physical condition is not up to par, even if you can open the second door, you will do yourself a lot of harm in the future. These words that Dai Ruo thoughtfully said. Sakita nodded. He knew that there was no way for him to believe what he said just now. Now it can only be proved by strength. Uncle Dai, then I'll make a fool of myself. If there is anything wrong with this, please point it out. Sake Tien nodded very modestly, and then came to the side. Dai, Kai, and Yui Hong stood beside them, waiting quietly. Chi Tien looked at the three of them and nodded slightly. At this time, only strength is the best proof. Nor did he want Dai to think he was lying to him. Uncle Dai, you're making a fool of yourself. As soon as Sakishin finished speaking, he began to make preparations. Stand still, Zama step. Call, take a deep breath. 8-door Dunjia, the first door, open. As the words fell, the chakra in Sakidan's body began to wander. The door was opened in an instant, and a wave of air flowed out. Whirring. The first door, success. Father, did you see? I said he could really do it. Kai looked at Chi Tien who was breathing all over his body, and was instantly happy. Dai stood aside with a dignified expression. 8 doors Dunjia, the second door, open. Since the last time I learned that I could open the 4th door of the 8-door Dunjia. Kishin is also very relaxed now and can do it. With a light drink, the chakra in the body surged again, the second door was successfully opened, and the breath was even better than before. A puff of breath moved towards the three of them. Dai looked at Kishin, who had successfully opened the second door, with a more solemn expression than before. But he was already very happy in his heart. Kei was also very happy standing by. This is also the first time for Yui Hong to see Bam and Dunjia. The whole person stood in place, not moving for a long time. It's really amazing. Now that I've learned, how long will it take to open the second door? This kid's talent is really amazing. Dai showed a very happy expression. Kishin looked at them and smiled softly, but he didn't seem to intend to just understand. 8 doors of Dunjia, 3rd door, life door, open. Chi Tien took the horse step again, running the chakra in his body. As soon as this sentence was said, both Dai and Kai were stunned. I thought the second door was just the limit, but the 3rd door now is just the beginning. As Chi Tien opened the 3rd door, the breath around his body became more violent than before, and his body began to turn red gradually. A layer of green chakra surrounded him, and the crazily released chakra seemed to be overwhelming. After seeing such a scene, Dai and Kai were completely stunned. This, life gate. Seeing Chi Tien like this, Dai was so excited that he stuttered. This is the first time he has seen someone who can open the 3rd door in such a short time since he has practiced for so long. As soon as Dai's words fell, Chi Tien's next performance was even more surprising. 8 doors Dunjia, the 4th door, open. As soon as the words fell, Kishin successfully opened the 4th door. The energy around his body was more violent than before, and at this moment he felt a little unstoppable. It was maintained for only 3 seconds, and this mode was cancelled at once. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The first 3 doors are okay, but the 4th door is not. It seems that in the future, we still need to practice the most basic body. Kishin stood up slowly, and then shifted his gaze to the 3 of them. At this moment, Dai and Kai seemed to be petrified, standing in place with their mouths wide open and motionless. Yui Hong had just encountered this state of the 2 of them while walking. And feel very curious. Chi Tien looked at the 2 of them and smiled softly. Could it be that my performance just now stunned both of them? It's no wonder, I wouldn't have opened the 4th door if I knew it earlier. Kishin shook his head helplessly, and then came in front of the 3 of them. After Kurani Yui saw Sakidan's whole state just now, she had a new understanding of him. He never imagined that his deskmate in the past had such great strength. Uncle Dai, what's the matter? I didn't lie to you, did I? Kai, now you know which door I can see. Chi Tian looked at the two of them with some complacency. After all, this trick also came from them, and the speed of their own learning now really surprised them. Sake Tian, your talent is really amazing. My son has found an amazing person. Ha ha ha. Dai desperately patted Kishin on the shoulder. It may be that he is very happy to see such a genius. But after the third door, every time you open a door, you will have stricter requirements on yourself. So if your body hasn't reached a certain level, don't use it casually. Severe injuries can range from mild to serious, and in serious cases, it will hurt your own life. Dai suddenly looked serious and said these words to him very seriously. Sake Tien also nodded very seriously, and he is the most clear about what happened after that. Chi Tien looked at the two of them and just smiled slightly. Sakuden-kun, you are really amazing. The gap between me and you is really getting bigger and bigger. I can't relax anymore. How about we do 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 squats, and a 5K trail run? Kai's eyes once again burned with fighting spirit. Chi Tien looked at him, and thinking about the training of those useless people, he became a lot scared in an instant. Forget it, I suddenly remembered that I have other things. If there is a chance in the future, let's train together again. As soon as the words fell, she pulled Yui Hong and ran towards the outside of the training ground. Uncle Dai, Kai, see you later. Even if Yui Hong looked like this, she didn't forget to say hello to them. The father and son still stood there with their mouths wide open, smiling and waving their hands. After running to a safe area, Chi Kishin breathed a sigh of relief. Qianshan, what's wrong with you? Are you particularly afraid of their training? Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin, and then asked very curiously. Hong, you don't know how cruel the training of the two of them is. Ordinary people really can't hold on. Last time I was almost exhausted to learn Baman Dunjia. Sake Tien patted his chest, and then whispered. Seeing his appearance, Yui Hong couldn't help but smile again. I really don't see it. You are indeed very different from before. It's really hard to imagine, why do you keep hiding your strength? Yui Hong now has a lot of doubts. Kishin looked at her innocent expression, but he couldn't tell the real situation. Actually, I also have secrets that I can't tell. I'll let you know if I get a chance later. Believe me. Although Sake Tien didn't want to do this very much, there was nothing he could do. I can only draw a big cake for her. But who would have thought? Okay, I trust you and won't lie to me. Such a simple little girl as Yui Hong chooses to believe him unconditionally. At this time, Sakishin blamed himself again, but there was nothing he could do. Now that things have gone in this direction, there is no reason to drag it back. The two talked a little bit, and then walked on the road. Today, Chi Tien has enough cups, and his mood is better than ever. I really didn't expect that cupping can be so cool. It's cool to fill a cup for a while, and it's always cool to keep a cup. Chi Tien looked up at the sky with a smile on his face, and he was already very happy in his heart. Ding, it is detected that the host likes to put cups, and the ninjutsu will automatically blacken. Ding, the ninjutsu has been blackened successfully, and I have automatically learned the Phoenix Fire art, and the current level is perfect. Chi Tien, who was walking on the road, suddenly heard the system voice in his head. He stopped and froze in place. This system really surprised him everywhere. Even the simplest cupping can be obtained by accident. Great, got another ninjutsu. Although the Baman Dunjia is very good, it cannot be used frequently. It's amazing to get this ninjutsu now. Sake Tien thought to himself. Sake, what's wrong? Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin who was standing there in a daze, a little confused. It's nothing. I just suddenly remembered that there are still clothes at home that have not been collected. But it's okay, the weather is so good today, you can take a good sun. Sakishin scratched his hair with his hands, and said with some embarrassment. Yui Hong nodded slightly, and didn't notice anything else. Sakuden raised his foot again and walked forward. Now he is in a better mood than before. But now he realizes another problem, what conditions are needed for automatic blackening to be activated. After such a long time, I have gained a lot. But most of them have no fixed rules, which makes him lose his direction for a while. Kishin looked at Yui Hong beside him, then looked at other passers-by on the street ahead, and thought of Kai and his son. At this moment, he silently made up his mind. As long as there is a chance in the future and I have that kind of strength, I must save more people. Have a good day and end with a good night's sleep. Is there anything more comfortable than this? Ha ha. Sake Tien has been out with Kurenai Yuhi and spent a day that is more than a date. As a single dog for thousands of years, Kishin feels that today is his peak. When I got home, I lay on the bed and looked at the ceiling with a smile on my face. It's nice to have a girl. The exam starts tomorrow afternoon, I don't know what's in it. Sake Tien has not been so afraid of exams until now. The reason why he thinks so much now is because of his first annual exam. Why do you think so much? There is a system, and you are afraid of a bird. Sleep. Good night, Makabaka. The next day, afternoon. Ninja school. There seem to be more people in the school today than usual. It's really weird. I haven't seen so many people in normal times. Why do so many new faces appear in the exam? Kishin stood at the gate of the school, looking inside. Sake Tien, you're here. At this moment, Yui Hong suddenly appeared behind him. After hearing the voice, Sakita turned around and looked. Red, you're here. Why did so many people suddenly come to our school today, and most of them, I have never seen before? Chi Tien pointed forward, very curious. Yui Hong stood on tiptoe and looked ahead, then smiled softly. I always feel that you are different from before. When we take the annual exam, parents and others can come here to visit. That's why there are so many people now. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin with an incredulous expression on his face. After listening, Chi Tien smiled and scratched his hair, a little embarrassed. So it is. It's all because I slept too late today. I feel like I've slept stupidly. Sake Tien randomly found a reason. Different. Of course it's different. It's my first time living here, so it's strange to know these things. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin's smile and didn't think too much about it. Okay, let's hurry up and go in. It seems to be about to start. We have to start preparing. Kurenai Yuhi pulled Sake Tien's wrist and walked towards the inside. In school, in class. Students, get ready, the annual exam will start soon. Our class is the first one, so relax and don't be too nervous. The next step is the test sequence. Students who read their names remember their numbers. The teacher walked into the classroom with a notebook and yelled at the students. At this time, the class was suddenly silent. After the whole class was quiet, the teacher began to read the names and take serial numbers for them. Kishin looked at the people around him, and found that many people were shaking their legs, and seemed to be in a panic. It seems that the annual exam is very strict. Chi Tien looked at these classmates shaking their legs, thinking silently in his heart. That's it for final exams. If you do well in the exam, you can have a good year. They didn't do well in the exam, and only the soft belt of their father greeted them. 6. After a few minutes, Sake Tien got his number. This number is really quite 6. Liu Liu Di Shan, eat chicken tonight. After everyone knows the number, the face-to-face exam will follow. Chi Tien suddenly panicked at this time. He knew the plot of Hokage very well, but doing the questions would kill him. It won't be so bad. Could it be that my first paper test is about to end like this? I don't know any knowledge points in the ninja world. I'm going crazy. Reading it separately, you obviously know each other, but together you don't know each other at all. Chi Tien looked at the test questions, scratched his head, and was about to go crazy. Exam begins. The class was silent for a moment, and the three teachers walked back and forth in the class. They would not allow anyone to cheat. Chi Tien sat on the seat, looking at the book in his hand. This thing knew Sakiden, but Sakiden didn't know them. Just like doing English questions, you can't handle it. Going crazy, how could I do this? Chi Tien looked at the book and felt very helpless. Ding, it was detected that the host's heartbeat was accelerating, and he felt extremely irritable, and felt that he couldn't do it anymore. The brain has been blackened. Ding, the brain has been blackened successfully, and now I have learned all the knowledge of the ninja world, reaching the level of an encyclopedia. Sitting in the seat, Kishin began to lose his composure as he listened to the voice in his head. A lot of knowledge poured into his brain. If it weren't for the useless memory before, his head would be bursting now. After fully accepting it, Sakiden opened his eyes and smiled. Heaven will not kill me. Looking at the test questions again, this time I finally got to know them. Looking at the questions, Kishin's brain started to run at high speed, and all the answers came out one by one. Aiming at the blank space of the question, he wrote with confidence, and soon, all the answers on the entire test paper were completed. Looking at his results, Kishin smiled. This question is like a joke. It's too searchable. Sakita muttered softly. Looking around at the answerers around him, Kishin felt a little bored. Invincible is how lonely. The exam had just started for 15 minutes, and after Kishin arrived at the encyclopedia, it took only 5 minutes to answer the questions. Often this time is the most tormented. Looking at the test questions, Kishin tossed and turned, wondering if he should hand in the papers in advance. However, there is a clear rule before the test that the test papers can only be handed in half an hour after the start of the test. Kishin looked at the time, sighed, and lay down on the table. This afternoon is the written test, and tomorrow we will start to test the real skills. To put it bluntly, tomorrow is the most important thing. It's the first time to take this kind of exam, and I'm really excited. Chi-Tien lay down on the table, closed his eyes and thought silently in his heart. There is absolutely nothing to do now. There is no way to hand in the papers in advance of the exam time. I can only lie on the table and cannot sleep. There are 3 other teachers walking around all the time in case any students cheat. Suddenly I remembered that since it's the annual exam, it really means that it's time to celebrate the new year soon. It's really time for me to come. Sakiten was really happy at first, but then he became depressed again. Because there is no relative in this world. Even if it is Chinese New Year, he is at most alone, and friends are not a big deal to him so far. He shifted his gaze to Yui Hong's body. Is it red? It's possible that the two of us are friends. I'm really not sure. If you say that, this year I will be at home alone for the new year. Chi-Tien shook his head gently, expressing his helplessness. He raised his head and looked at the time. There are still the last 10 minutes, why does it suddenly feel like it's passing so slowly? Chi-Tien was very happy when he learned that he had 10 minutes to hand in the paper. Time passed by minute. Kishin lay on the table and meowed at other people, and this was the first time he felt superior. After all, I was also a scumbag before, and I didn't know anything. And after the exam, I slept there on my stomach, but these 2 times were completely different. One is to get down without doing the questions, and the other is to finish all the questions and then get down. The time has finally come, and it's finally over. Chi-Tien stood up suddenly, and then patted the table. With this sound, the eyes of the whole class were directly focused on him. What is this thing for? Isn't it because I want to hand in the papers in advance? I only did a few questions. He must be filling the cup, and he will definitely be the last one then. Those students who did not study well looked at Chi-Tien and discussed in private in a low voice. Sakei-Tien knew that if he did this, he would definitely be discussed by others. But he doesn't care about that at all now. When the time comes, you can prove your results to everyone. It's useless to say anything even now. Teacher, I have to hand in the paper early. Chi-Tien took the paper and walked to the front, then said loudly. Are you sure? The teacher looked at Sakishin in disbelief. I'm pretty sure. That's it, I'll go first. Sakishin put the paper on the table, and walked out of the classroom with a smile on his face. This wave of operations directly stared at the students in the class who did not study well. They also all wanted to hand in papers early, and their grades were definitely not good. The reason why I didn't hand in the paper was because I wanted to get a few more questions. In order not to get bad grades in the exam, go home and bear the belt. Sakei-Tien. Kuranu Yuhi looked at Kishin who walked out of the classroom, and frowned slightly. Immediately afterwards, he lowered his head and began to do his own exercises desperately. In the class, Yui Hong's grades are also quite good. After Kishin walked out of the class, he passed by many classrooms, each classroom was the same, and all of them were taking exams. It's such a great feeling. This is the first time in history. Ha ha. With his hands in his pockets, Kishin walked out with steps that his relatives did not recognize. Now I feel like I can do it again. There is only this exam this afternoon, and the real exam will start tomorrow. I don't know what will be the test content tomorrow. What I look forward to most is the practice. I don't know if it's with the teacher or with my classmates. Chi Tian walked to the entrance of the teaching building, and then stopped. There are too many parents outside. If I go out now, I will definitely be asked about things. Might as well just wait here for a while. This can also save a lot of trouble. It's really different to have a system. Even taking a face-to-face exam is like opening a book. Well, it's really too easy. Sake Tien found a clean place and sat down. Looking at the blue sky, I began to think about other things in my heart. Time slowly slipped away as he thought about it. Soon all the students who took the exam completed their answers, handed in their papers and walked out. Many people have very good expressions. Of course, some people have very low expressions. Just from their expressions, we can see who did well in the exam and who did not. These are almost all special abilities of the student days. Finally, the exam is over. Now you can go out with peace of mind. Chi Tian stood up, then patted his clothes, and walked towards the school gate. After walking out of the school gate, he stood on the road and looked at both sides. It's very early now, and I don't know what to compare. That's it. Sake Tien, wait for me. Kurenai Yuhi ran behind him in a hurry. Chi Tian turned his head and looked at his very anxious look, a little curious. What happened? It's okay, I was afraid that you would leave early, so I ran out. Kurenai Yuhi raised her very cute face and looked at him. Oh, looking for me. What's the matter, do you want to go out with me? Sakatan pointed at himself, and was very curious. I don't know much about girls. Most of the time it's just guesswork. Yeah, is there a problem? Anyway, it's very, very early. I have nothing to do when I go back, so I might as well have a good time outside. The exam is coming up tomorrow, so you have to relax a bit today. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sake Tien's face, flushed slightly. Kishin was a little embarrassed. Although he wanted to refuse, he was embarrassed. In the end, I could only nod my head. Well, if that's the case, then I'd rather be respectful than obedient. I also plan to go shopping today. I don't have anything at home. Chi Tian looked a little unnaturally into the distance. After receiving the affirmation, Yui Hong jumped up happily. Seeing Kurenai Yuhi so happy, Kishin smiled softly. Seeing this, the girl herself is very happy. In that case, let's go. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sake Tien and ran forward with a smile. Sakishin smiled and followed her. At this time, he began to look up and down Yui Hong carefully. After all, it has been such a long time, and he has not observed it carefully. I didn't know it without careful observation, and Chi Tian was stunned by this. Dressed in black, not too big or too small, showing off her figure. The little skirt showed all the legs at once. Zizizi, that guy Asma is really lucky. It's really not easy to marry such a beautiful daughter-in-law. Right now, Yui Hong is just a little Lolita. She will be at her peak later on. Kishin looked at Kurenai Yuhi's back and shook his head helplessly. After thinking about some other things, he quickened his pace, and then walked to the side of Yui Hong. Hong, I'm going to go to the mall first. Buy some necessities for life. I haven't bought one for a long time. I need everything at home. Why don't you go shopping with me first? Sake Tien looked at Kurenai Yuhi and explained his next thoughts. Red Yuhi nodded. After the two made their decision, they quickened their pace and came to a large shopping mall. After walking in, you picked out the things you needed to buy as quickly as possible, and then walked out after paying the bill. There are too many things, I bought so many without paying attention. This should allow me to use it until the Chinese New Year. Let's buy New Year's goods first. Chi Tian hugged a lot of things, and was very happy. Shiha Hong was not idle either, she was carrying 2 bags of things in her hand. Sake Tien, do you usually eat at home by yourself? Yui Hong suddenly became very curious. That's right, I usually cook at home by myself. I only come out to eat when I don't want to move. Kishin walked forward with his things in his arms. Red Yuhi nodded. After shopping, they didn't go anywhere else. Choose to leave things all at home and come out again. When I got home, I put all the things on the table. Seeing the big table full of things, Chi Tian felt a little distressed. After all, I only have so much money. If you keep spending too much, you will run out sooner or later. It's not an option to keep going like this. Just recently, there was a time when I could make a good amount of money. Chi suddenly thought of a very good idea. He walked out of the house with a smile on his face. Okay, there's nothing else to do now. Tell me, where do you want to go? Sake Tien came to the long-awaited Yui Hong. Are you ready? Actually, I don't know where to go to play better. Then let's go around the village. Yui Hong put her hands behind her back, showing a naughty and cute appearance. Sakita nodded. He also knows that there are almost no places to play in Muya village now. And only children can play it, a happy little game together. In this case, we can only go around for a while. Maybe there will be others. Kishin looked at the front and smiled. After the two made their decision, they walked towards the center of the village. After all, the center of the village is the busiest place. Dating. This idea once again ran out of Chi Tien's heart. Although I haven't talked about love, it doesn't mean I haven't seen it. This feeling is really amazing. I know it's impossible, but why do I still think about him? Ha ha ha, strange. Chi Tien walked on the road and suddenly laughed. Yui Hong next to him seemed to have gotten used to his appearance. The eyes just glanced lightly. Lively. There are many people on the street. And now there is only so little time left before the Chinese New Year. These people will come out to buy things and buy new furniture. It's really lively. By comparison, the neighborhood around my house looks a bit deserted. Sakita shook his head. It's possible that the time hasn't come yet. Maybe if we stop for a few days, there will be many people there. Yui Hong looked very happy at the people shopping on both sides of the street. Girls seem to like shopping very much, especially for things that they don't know. The wild horse that has been running off the rein is about to be born. Looking at Kuroyuki's expression, Sake Tien instantly felt that something was wrong. It suddenly occurred to me that girls don't feel tired when visiting Guy. Hong, are you planning to go shopping? And you also want to buy something? Sakishin tentatively probed. Of course, it's rare to have such an opportunity. And I also want to use shopping to forget tomorrow's exam. Yui Hong nodded very stiffly. Chi Tien seemed to be petrified, and generally stood in place. I've heard before that shopping with girls is tantamount to courting death. Either I was exhausted from walking, or I was crushed to death by shopping. Sometimes it feels exaggerated, but shopping is really a girl's nature. Okay, if that's the case, let's move forward. Kishin was very helpless, but he couldn't refuse. Because when I bought things by myself just now, people accompanied me and helped me to carry things. It would be too embarrassing to refuse now. It's okay, don't worry. I won't buy too much. And I didn't bring that much money when I came out today. I just saw if there was anything interesting. If you have it, buy a little. If you don't have it, forget it. Yui Hong said suddenly. After hearing those words just said, Sake was relieved. Both sides of the whole street are full of shopping, and there are a lot of people in it. If you want to speed up and move forward here, it is simply impossible. Crowded people will only make it more crowded. The two children also thought that they were a little so powerless in the crowd. It was quickly rushed away by a large group of people. Chi Tien watched the last bit of the picture disappear before his eyes. It seems very unwilling. A lot of people. Red, wait for me. Sake Tien almost lost his way in the crowd. Pushing the person in front away with all his strength, he found a gap. Soon came to Yui Hong's side. Sake Tien, there are really too many people. Fortunately, we are together again. Kurenai Yui was indeed very scared just now, but when he saw Sake Tien, he became more at ease. We must not get separated again. If there is an accident, it will be troublesome. And we are just children among the crowd. We are so powerless. Kishin looked at Kurenai Yui, and the two stood in a relatively empty place on the side of the street. This empty place is empty because there is no shopping here. Otherwise, the place would already be full of people. Then let's keep going forward. It seems that there are a lot fewer people in front than before. Kishin looked at the front and it seemed that it was not so crowded. Kurenai Yui nodded, grabbed Sakiden by the corner of his clothes, and followed behind him. In this way, the two reached the end of the street. I didn't find anything interesting along the way. Kurenai Yui was not disappointed, but Sakishin said he was very lucky. Red. At this moment, a gentle voice from afar reached the ears of both of them. The two followed the sound and found a girl and a boy walking towards them. This is. Chi Tian looked at the two of them and frowned. Lin, Obito. After seeing the two of them, Yui Hong smiled into a flower instantly. Then he let go and ran towards Yuan Yelin. After hearing the name Kurani Yui just said, Sake Tien suddenly realized. Combine the classic look of both of them. Sure, it was the two of them. The appearance hasn't changed at all. Obito still looks great, with his own pair of glasses. Obito, I didn't expect to meet the future world boss here. I met once before, but I didn't fully accept it. Sake Tien touched his chin with his hand and seemed to be thinking about something. Maybe his ending is the same now, if we can become friends with him. Give him more benefits in the future and help him everywhere. Maybe I will be able to let myself go in the ninja world war in the future. Ha ha ha, I'm so smart. Kishin stood there and laughed happily, but in the eyes of others, he looked like a fool. Everything can't go your way. That's all. Ding, it was detected that the host wanted to rely on the connections to lie down, but the bloodlines firmly disagreed, and it has been automatically blackened. Ding, the bloodline has been blackened successfully, and the divine power has been activated. The current level, perfect level. The sound of the system carried through Sakadan's entire mind. This temper, I like it. After hearing the news, Chi Tien stood where he was, his eyes lost. All I can think about is God. I see, Kamui. Kishin began to carefully talk about the information about Shinwei in his mind. Its ability can distort the space and even tear apart the enemy, and the other one can transfer itself or objects back and forth between real space and different space. Although I don't know what kind of ability I have now. But Kamui is really great. And the level is the perfect level, so it can be said that it can be used as you like. Hi, I am. Chi Tien strode forward and greeted them. I know you, your name is Sake Tien. Yuan Yelin took the lead. Kishin looked at Yuan Yelin and blinked. This wave of operations made him unable to continue. Hey, I never thought I'd be famous. Sakishin scratched his head with a smile on his face. Obito walked up to him at this time, and then looked Sakishin up and down. You are Sake God. I really can't see it. I have always preserved my strength. Obito clasped his hands together, and then had a disdainful expression on his face. Circa. This thing is so unbearable. Why didn't I find it before? Ha ha, there is no way, you have to sacrifice something in order to survive. And Obito, you must have retained your strength. Sakishin looked at Obito and smiled. Obito frowned slightly. His own strength is the bottom of the class. But now, Kishin has broken away from the countdown. What? That's not packed with soil. Sakita smiled. Such a thick skin. He really takes what others say. In this case, let's find an opportunity to discuss together in the future. Maybe we'll have this chance tomorrow. Don't refuse me then. Sakishin smiled and had an idea. After listening, Obito was obviously a little uncomfortable, and his eyes began to dodge left and right. Yui Hong and Yui Lin, who were beside the two of them, were stunned when they heard it. No matter how you think about it, these two people will pinch each other when they meet for the first time. Okay, whoever is afraid of whom. Don't blame me for not letting you in then. Obito gambled his last dignity and shouted loudly. It didn't matter at all that Sakishin blocked his ears with his hands. For the current Obito, Sake Tien is very familiar with it. A crane tail, although it will become a world boss in the future. But now he is just a little kid, nothing to be afraid of. Ha, I was thinking of joking with you. No, I thought it was serious. Then there is no other way, and then I can only give you a good meal. Maybe he might become my little brother. Sakishin looked at Obito and thought to himself. Obito looked at Sakishin with great hostility. The two girls looked at the two of them like this, and they were obviously at a loss. And I don't know why the two of them hurt each other. What's the matter with you two? They're all in the same class. It's so unpleasant to meet for the first time. I advise you to be honest. Yui Hong pointed at the noses of the two of them, looking at them viciously. Sakita nodded with a smile. Although Obito was very unconvinced, when he saw Hiranolin, he could only nod obediently. After finishing speaking, Yui Hong and Yuanyelin turned their heads and walked forward. Kishin put his hands in his pockets and followed them indifferently. Walk at the end with rustic breath. Maybe I can take this opportunity to make Obito my younger brother. That would be so cool. The world boss in the future will become my little brother. This feeling will definitely be very cool. Sakishin walked on the road and casually looked at Obito behind him. But thinking of the situation with soil in the future, Kishin shook his head unconsciously. Hate from love. Chi-Tien thinks that few people in this world can do this. Forget it, the most important thing right now is to pass tomorrow's exam. The most basic things are fine. I just don't know what kind of exam the last item will be. Could it be a competition among the students? It might be with the teacher. Of course these are all uncertain. Who knows how this ghost school is arranged? Saketien looked up at the sky and sighed softly. Time passed slowly. The four of them walked around the village for a long time. And they both bought a lot of things. Of course, these things were bought by the two girls. Chi-Tien had already bought all the things he needed to buy before. I looked in many places and didn't find what I needed. And now he has a lot of money in his hand. If he runs out in a short time, only hunger will greet him. When he was shopping, he was paying attention to whether there was any business that he could make money from. But he found that there were many things he couldn't do. If selling delicious food, he didn't know where to start. And the raw materials themselves are not available. In the end, we can only put this matter aside for a while, and we must consider it in the long run. The four of them separated and returned home at night. Saketien lay on the bed as soon as he got home. It's really tiring to go shopping with girls. In the future, you must never agree again. Sakita took off his shoes and sighed. Take a break, organize your things, and start resting. There is an exam tomorrow, and I need to recharge my batteries. Only in that way can we have a perfect state to meet the exam tomorrow. The next day, ninja school. Now start the exam. None of the students were late today. After all, it is the day of the exam, and everyone knows the importance of the exam. No one will ignore. Kishin looked at the other students in the classroom, feeling a little flustered for no reason. What is the problem? Obviously my strength is already very strong, but seeing them like this, I will also become nervous with them. Is this the horror of the exam? Sakishin sat in his seat and kept shaking his legs. Presumably, every student will have this experience. Whenever I take an exam, I feel nervous unconsciously. Red, are you confident about this test? Chi-Tien thought of some ways to distract himself. In the end, he decided to chat with his deskmate, Yui Hong. I'm not very clear either. Although I have reviewed many times. But it's not 100% sure of success. Yui Hong pursed her mouth and shook her head lightly. Sakita smiled. It's okay. It's an exam anyway. I believe that with your strength, it will be very smooth. Saketien felt a little inexplicable, obviously trying to distract. In the end, it actually comforted others. Yui Hong showed her smiling face, then nodded. The two talked for a long time like this, and at the end the teacher also walked into the classroom with the roll call. After talking about the rules and scoring system of the next exam. After speaking, all the students followed the teacher to the examination site. The first is knife throwing. This is also the most basic skill. A total of 10 shurikens. Attack 10 targets, the full score is 80 points. Asuma Sarutobi, 89 points. Yuan Yellen, 95 points. Red Sunset, 96 points. Obito, 88 points. After Obito finished the exam, he pointed his middle finger at Sakishin. Seeing himself being challenged, Chi-Tien instantly became angry. Depend on. Chi-Tien said some national essence to Obito. This is the phoenix among people, and the export is the quintessence of the country. Next, Uchiha Sakiden. After hearing my name, Saketien walked to the examination area with the spirit of an instant. The teacher looked at the roster, then looked up at Kishin, and then smiled contemptuously. So it's your boy. As a student, there are many misses, but most of them are a few misses. But if you lose 10, you will only have the previous Chi-Tien if you lose 10. Boy, you have to be more serious this time. Don't throw it at the teacher. The teacher looked at Sakishin and said very worriedly. Kishin looked at the teacher and didn't understand what was going on, and he didn't have these in his memory. Ding, it is detected that the host is despised, the body can't stand it, and it will be blackened directly. Ding, the body has been blackened successfully, all functions have been upgraded to a perfect level, and the throwing of ninja tools is close to perfection. Kishin looked at the teacher and listened to the voice of the system in his head. Then, the corners of the mouth rose. Laughing at Lao Su makes you look good. Hey, Kishin smiled knowingly, stood firm, and looked at the target in front of him. This is also a systematic statement, and Sakishin also feels very correct. After all, what the teacher just said was completely mocking. And if these things hadn't happened before, it would be impossible for the teacher to talk about them. Start. The teacher had just finished speaking, and immediately retreated to the side. Cut. Kishin looked at the target in the distance, and smiled slightly at the corner of his mouth. Instantly took out several shurikens. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Launched one after the other. Ding ding ding. Each one falls very smoothly right in the middle. After this wave of operations, the invigilator next to him also dropped his jaw in shock. He looked at Sakishin in disbelief. Is this Sakiden? Okay, it's the same guy. The teacher was very incredible, and checked the roster repeatedly. Uchiha Sakiden, 100 points. The teacher announced the result in shock at the end. The first 100 points came out, and the entire auditorium started screaming loudly. Especially the students in this class. Under the gaze of everyone, Saketien walked very handsomely to the auditorium. The next students started the test one by one. But everyone's strength is not very ideal. The highest score is only 98 points. Take a break for 10 minutes. Next is the substitute technique and other exams. The teacher said loudly to the students, and then walked out with the roster. All the students in the class immediately focused their attention on Sakishin. The scumbag in the past has now become the number one in the class. No one would believe it if they hadn't seen it with their own eyes. Saketien, you are really amazing. Yeah, it's really hidden. Saketen-kun, I didn't expect you to be so good at this aspect. It seems that I have to seize the time to improve my strength. Yui Hong, Yi Yellen and Kai surrounded Kishin, crazily envious. Obito looked at Sakiden, his teeth almost gnawed. On the one hand, it was because he had become stronger now, and on the other hand, Yuan Yellen was also among them. Chi-Tien looked at them and enjoyed the atmosphere very much. This is also the first time I have had so much envy. 10 minutes passed quickly. Sakiden didn't rest at all during the 10 minutes here. All around are greetings from classmates. After all, when I suddenly become stronger, everyone will be very curious. The second exam, ready to start. The teacher came to them. All the students lined up very well after hearing what the teacher said. According to the serial number you got, prepare to start the next exam. One by one came to the front to start the exam. But the grades of these students are very unsatisfactory. The teacher frowned as he read their grades. Next, number 6, Uchiha Sakiden. The teacher got a little better when he read the name. But there is a little more worry. After all, every student is not perfect. It is possible to be very successful before, but it is possible to fall in this test environment. Kishin walked to the examination area confidently, then turned to look at the teacher, waiting for the next order. Let's start. After the teacher finished speaking, Saketien nodded. Use your fastest speed to complete all the subjects of this exam. And the result is also very perfect. Especially for the avatar technique, Kishin didn't want to be too ostentatious, and only created one avatar. If it is too ostentatious, it will attract the attention of others. Uchiha Sakiden, out of 100 points. The teacher finally felt better after seeing such a result. And also looked at Saketien incredulously. Chi-Tien looked at the teacher, stretched out his finger and made a gesture. Nothing could be more exciting than now. Next. The teacher looks at the roster and looks at the next students. But the highest score of the following students is only more than 90 points. There are even a lot of people who fail. When I was in school, I was always afraid that something like this would happen. The test results in front of the teacher are very bad. The teacher's face will also be quite ugly. But it's completely different now. Don't worry about these things anymore. Kishin was very happy to walk back to his place. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Sakishin and cast a very envious look. His own grades are also quite good, but there is still a big gap compared with Kishin. What's the matter, Red? Is there something on my face? Kishin touched his face and looked at Yui Hong. After Yui Hong came back to her senses, her face turned red all of a sudden. No, I was just thinking about other things just now. I was stunned for a while. Yui Hong covered her face and said in a low voice. Chi Tian smiled and said nothing more. He himself is very clear. It's just that you can't tell the truth, but there are still friends who do it. I didn't expect the exam this time to be so simple. Before the exam, I thought it would be very difficult. It seems like that now. Chi Tian found a place to sit down, looking at the front and muttering softly. Sunset blinked. It's true for you, but it's not so easy for others. And a lot of people failed this time. Yui Hong shook her head regretfully. Sakita nodded slightly. Indeed. While the two of them were chatting alone, all of them had already completed the exam. And at this moment the teacher came up to them. Tell everyone a news. Be quiet. The teacher looked at the students in his class and shouted loudly. Everyone also fell silent, and they were all very much looking forward to what the news would be. The third subject has been cancelled. Exams are now fully over. 2 days off from today. Come to school to get your grades in 2 days. The teacher showed a very kind smile to his students. In an instant, the whole class exploded. This news is really great news for them. The test subjects are temporarily cancelled. What thought in the world can be happier than this? It's really awesome. Now you don't have to think about it so much. I finally don't have to be whipped when I go home. Some students with bottom grades became happy. Chi Tian felt that the news was indeed quite sudden. But it doesn't matter to him. After all, this subject is dispensable. I didn't expect that Zhanxiang would go in this direction. It's really unexpected. It's really great news for them. Sake Tian looked at Kurenai Yuhi and smiled. At this time, Yui Hong had already burst into laughter. After all, I have been worrying about the last test subject before. Of course, this is also what she is least good at. Now I don't have to worry anymore. All the students walked out of the school gate happily. Today there is only an exam and nothing else. The next thing waiting for them is 2 days off. When I came to school again, I came to get my grades. Once the results are in hand, the holiday will start, which will also mean that the spring festival is coming. Kishin walked out of the school gate, stood on the road and stretched. I looked at the sky, and then at the pedestrians on the main road. At this moment, life is so beautiful. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.